everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. I'll be your astrologer this month. This is going to be the horoscopes for September of 2022. So this is going to be for all zodiac signs, brought to you by Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. Just a couple quick offerings this month before we get into the 12 rising signs. I just want to let you guys some new stuff, let you guys know some new stuff that's going on in the channel, starting with September 18th and the 25th. Now, I'm going to be offering the Astrology of You and Me, a two-part series on relationship astrology. Very excited to do this. It's like two quick one-off courses that I'm going to be doing. Week one, we're going to be talking all about aspects in synastry. So when you lay two charts over each other, looking at how the planets interact with each other and how we can look at compatibility between two separate charts. Then on the 25th of September, we're going to be doing the second part, and that's all going to be about composite charts. We're going to look at midpoint composites, Davidson composites. I'm going to show you guys some techniques for relationship timing, planning, looking for all the red flags and all the other things in relationships, and getting a better idea of how to make predictions using the composite chart. Now, as always, all of my lessons, my webinars, if you want to buy tickets and things like that for future events, you can find that on my website. You can also learn with me if you would like to. I've got my beginners tarot and astrology courses that are now live on my website for purchase. There is over hours of instruction in a live Zoom digital classroom with all kinds of homework and other things. So if you want to learn either one of those topics, check it out. Now, Saturdays on the channel, I'm always doing live readings. It's always going to be Saturday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. We alternate weeks. One week we do tarot, one week we do astrology. So if you want to get a quick reading with me, a mini reading, they're all going to be by donation. And yeah, it helps support the channel. So come check it out if you are looking for something to do on Saturday nights. And guys, we have eclipses coming up soon. Now that won't be happening until the month of October, and we know that eclipses come every 6 months, but we're gonna start feeling the energy at the end of September. We're gonna be feeling like we're coming into that intense kind of life-changing energy. So I'm doing a special webinar that's going to be on the two eclipses. So we're going to have a solar eclipse taking place in Scorpio. That's going to be at the end of October 2022, and a lunar eclipse in Taurus. Now we know that eclipses always usher in major changes in our lives, and I'm focusing so much on Mars and Venus, right? I'm choosing during this kind of Libra season to start talking about relationships. That's why I'm doing the relationship webinars. But these particular eclipses, because they are going to be ruled by both Mars and Venus, it's going to be pretty prominent for money and relationships. So I'm anticipating a lot of relationship shakeups are going to be happening. We've got a Mercury retrograde that's going to be taking place in Libra. So a lot of reorganizing relationships, relationship communication breakdown. So I'm using the next 2 months to kind of help you guys, give you insight how to navigate that. Obviously, you can always come back to the channel and see what I'm putting out there. I will be touching on the 12 rising signs, but I'm shifting so much more of my work to webinars and courses right now. So if you would like to sign up for this webinar on the eclipses, it's going to be on October 9th. We're going to be putting the tickets on my website pretty soon. Try to keep it affordable so everybody can join. I think it's going to be really helpful because I'm going to focus more on these this webinar on the eclipses, more on how it's going to affect our personal lives, like our relationships and our money. We've got, a solar eclipse taking place in Scorpio, conjunct Venus, and then we've got a lunar eclipse taking place in Taurus that will be in opposition to Venus and also in conjunction to Uranus in Taurus. So that eclipse coming around the 8th of November is going to be particularly wild. We're going to feel like the rug is pulled out from underneath us in some area of our life because of the conjunction to Uranus and the square to Saturn. So in these webinars, I'm hoping to give you guys guidance. I want to give you guys some astrological remedies. I want to help you guys understand why we're having such sudden shifts in our life. I'm also going to be talking a lot about herbal magic relating to healing, opening, being able to better ground ourselves, ourselves and stuff in relation to love and lust and sexuality, so we can really tune into that Scorpio energy and we can get in touch with that inner goddess inside of us to navigate this change. I'm excited to do something a little bit different. Maybe it's like a little witchy, but you know, whatever. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the transits for the month that catch my eye. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I did put out a video already touching on all of the most important transits of September. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I just want to let you guys know what I will be taking a look at in these horoscopes for each and every one of the 12 signs. It's going to kick off on September 2nd when we have Mercury in Libra coming into an opposition with Jupiter in Aries. Now, basically, we've seen this happen both on the 2nd, the September 18th date, and the October 12th. So retrogrades, will see things kind of get dinged a few times because it'll make an opposition, retrograde, oppose again, go direct, oppose again. So Mercury, god of communication, information, sometimes travel, in opposition to Jupiter retrograde in Aries. Great opportunity for feedback from other people, from partnering with other people. A great opportunity to look at relationships almost in a sense of a mirror, to be giving us feedback about what we're learning about ourselves and how we can better show up in the world to partner with others. So just interesting. You might get some good news on these dates. Like I said, the first one's going to be on September 2nd. Look for this again on the 18th of September, and then again on October the 12th, excuse me. September 3rd, Mars enters shadow. So really from now all the way until spring of next year, Mars is going to spend about 7 months in the sign of Gemini. When I say it enters shadow, this is the degree that Mars will retrograde back to in the new year. So we may start feeling the effects of the shadow. Mars rules passion, desire, courage, our will. It is very linear, so it's more aggressive, it's masculine, the god of war, but also getting what we want out of life, right? So while Mars is direct, and it'll be direct until the end of October, we want to focus on just paying attention to where, you know, Gemini is in our chart. There's going to be a lot more action here than usual. You may start to see the effects of the shadow for those of you guys who are ruled by Mars, so Aries and Scorpio risings. More on that, I did a video on Mars's transit through Gemini if you want to take a listen. Then on the 9th of September, Mercury turns retrograde in the sign of Libra. So we're going to feel it stationing the first, couple days in September. When a planet is stationing and getting ready to retrograde, sometimes we see a little bit of static, some chaos. Mercury rules, obviously, communication, contracts, some forms of business. Also, you know, kind of like movement. I think of Gemini being associated with the sign of Mercury and organization. So we can see some breakdowns in the Libra area of our life, right? Our ability to agree and find peace with other people. There can be a lot of like reworking relationships. A Mercury retrograde in Libra, I mean, come on, we're definitely going to hear from the past in some capacity, whether we're reevaluating old relationships, hearing from people from the past, deciding whether or not we're staying or we're going in relationships. And I really like the opposition to Jupiter. I think we're learning a lot about relationship breakdown and where it's teaching us whether we're outgrowing certain partnerships in our life. But if you're looking to get any of your stuff done, signed, agreed to, whatever, you may want to do that prior to the September 9th date. On the 16th of the month, we're going to see Venus in Virgo come into a square with Mars in Gemini. So these are mutable signs. A Venus square Mars, I'm not mad at it. I think it can be a little sexy. There can be some friction, but there can be some passion. And I think being that these are both in mutable signs, it's actually showing where I think Venus being in the sign of Virgo wants to serve, wants to be helpful. The love language is like acts of service. And Mars in Gemini, it's kind of like flighty. So there can be a sense of Venus getting a little miffed because she feels like Mars is maybe kind of not totally focused in one area, okay? This will be happening at 14 degrees. So if you have any placements at 14 degrees of the mutable signs, you might feel this a little bit more. I also think that there's a couple other things going on this day. You know, Sun in Virgo coming into an opposition with Pisces at 24 degrees. This is the same degree that, you know, Mercury will retrograde back to. You know, whether it's the Sun or it's Mercury in opposition to Neptune, we don't have a lot of clarity. So there's something very clear about this Mercury retrograde period that something is going to be unveiled that we were not aware of or was hidden from us in some capacity. Sun in opposition to Neptune is a day where we can feel more emotional, sympathetic, understanding, more sensitive than usual, right? And I also think with Venus in Virgo, in spite of her square to Mars and Gemini, she's coming into a trine with the North Node in Taurus, which is very stabilizing. Now, this is at 14 degrees. So if we put it all together, there can be a sense of like, hi, help, I need help, or I'm lost, or I'm feeling sensitive. And, you know, the Mars square Venus can be really showing that and giving people the opportunity to kind of step up, show up, be of service, and communicate for those of us who are feeling a little bit either under the weather or we're not feeling as loved as we would like to be. With Venus in a trine to the North Node in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, it's going to be practical, stable, physical things, right? Eating the vegetables, going to the gym, really showing up in relationships in a practical way, navigating finances in a practical way. But I think that the trine also to Uranus that we're going to see building on September 19th is what changes from that, right? How can we change the way that we look at some of our preferences? That's Venus. Now, Venus isn't entirely too happy in the sign of Virgo. Traditionally, we like to see Venus in like Libra or possibly even in Taurus or in Pisces. So when it's in Virgo, there is a sense of it being super critical of oneself. So we can feel like we're being a little bit more critical. But with that critical eye, I think the trine to both the North Node and Uranus, we're changing and transforming the way that we give and receive love. On the 22nd of the month, Mercury goes retrograde still in the sign of Libra, but it comes into conjunction with the Sun, and this is going to be at 0 degrees. Now we call this a cazimi. Mercury returning, coming to the heart of the Sun, relaying a message. Look for cosmic coincidences, epiphanies, sudden insights, especially about relationships on this day. Now it's at 0 degrees of Libra. This is the fall, equinox point here in the Western Hemisphere. 0 degrees of a cardinal sign is very potent. This is known as one of the cardinal points. It is the rebalancing, right? The coming back to finding balance between the light and the dark. I find that this is going to be very interesting, and we'll talk about this on the channel in the future. We'll look more so into the equinox chart, but it's setting the stage for the next quarter of the year, the next 3 months, where we are rethinking our roles in relationships and what makes us happy and what makes our heart sing. There can be cosmic coincidences, people who come back to us, fated relationship connections. I mean, we know this happens when we have Mercury retrogrades, but I could see some people coming back together in union with others, and it may be meant to be, and it's going to be like a new cycle that's starting in relationships, but it does require us to stay open, keep an open mind. On the 24th of September, Venus in Virgo comes to make an opposition with Neptune in Pisces at 23 degrees. Watch for scams. There can be some financial scams with Venus opposed Neptune. I also feel like there can be like money that goes missing. There can be, situations and issues with health. I think we're going to hear about this just in the news at the end of September. Issues with healthcare systems, problems with hospitals. We may see increased numbers with pandemic stuff. But for most of us, are we overly idealizing something? Are we not seeing something clearly? Are we having a tendency to romanticize something that is not real? And we can experience some deception when it comes to love and money. On the 25th, Venus moves to trine Pluto. So Venus is still in Virgo in a trine to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn at 26 degrees. I love it. We got the North Node ruler, Venus, coming into a trine with Pluto. We're going deep. We're transforming something about our relationships. We're realizing that relationships can't be superficial. I think that's a lot of what the Mercury retrograde is about. Mercury going retrograde from Libra to Virgo is make it real, make it practical, show up, be of service, help people. Are we willing to help people and stay in relationship even when things get difficult and they get challenging, or are we walking away? And I like Venus in a trine to Pluto because I feel like it's very passionate, it's very committed. There is an opportunity to heal and transcend issues that we've had in relationships and feel like we can really come out on top. great productive day for money planning, managing, anything like that. I would really encourage anybody to work with this Mercury retrograde in Libra, because it's dropping back into Virgo and it'll make several trines to Pluto where we can really strategize what we're getting done, whether or not we're living life in an orderly fashion, if we need to clean up, detox, purge, take out the trash. Wonderful time to do it during this transit. On September 26th, we've got Venus in Virgo coming into a conjunction with Mercury retrograde in Virgo at 26 degrees. Now, this is still in a trine to Pluto. Guys, Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus. I think the moon is going to be there right around that day too, which makes me feel like this is a day to watch where something from the past comes back. And it's coming back with a trine to Pluto, and I feel like if that person calls you that you know that you're just done with and there ain't no going back and it's toxic, that's the day to be like, it's done. There is no path forward. This might be a day where we get some kind of clarity about health matters as well, or organization matters, or really kind of cutting deep to things that have been really challenging for us in the past that we need to heal or recover from. Great time to be kicking addictions, bad habits, you name it. I mean, I really like this transit because it might be showing us during this transit what we need to be rethinking in terms of our health or our relationships. I also have a feeling there can be a little bit of a temptation point here with Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus. Are we going to get tempted to fall back into the past? Are we going to fall for the same stories and the same tricks again? Are we falling back into old patterns? So you want to watch for that. That same day, the sun in Libra is in opposition to Jupiter retrograde in Aries at 3 degrees. Now, this is important because when the Mars-Jupiter conjunction happened in Aries, it was earlier this year, it was at 3 degrees. So for the sun to come into an opposition with Jupiter, pretty optimistic, positive, kind of reach for the stars day. And it's reigniting that 3 degrees. So good news, good opportunities with this opposition, giving us the ability to collaborate with other people, and happy coincidences. Very strange that it's happening while Mercury retrogrades conjunct Venus. I just think that some people might be kind of taken off guard, that you might hear from exes, or you might hear from old bosses or anything like that. And it's like, wow, I never expected that to happen. And they're reaching out, seeing if there's an ability to reconnect. And you're like, I'm a completely different person than I was the last time we spoke, right? Jupiter and Aries. September 27th, Mercury retrograde. It is in Virgo. It'll trine Pluto retrograde at 26 degrees. This is the third time the trine has happened. Likely you're really uncovering information, facts, data. I'm expecting there to be all kinds of receipts coming out in Virgo season, really going into Libra season. I think by this point in time, the sun's already in Libra, but we're seeing something be revealed and uncovered. So you want to look at the last several times Pluto was in a trine with Mercury. We saw this right before the Mercury retrograde, so the shadow actually at the end of August. And the same day on the 27th, we see Mars and Gemini form a trine to Saturn in Aquarius at 19 degrees. Woo! So now we've got Mars working in harmony with Saturn. It's trining. These are air trines, which requires us to communicate, share, come together with other people, really be open to other ideas and other perspectives. Great time to lay the foundation and really start to move forward, I think, with some solid plans that we are laying in our lives. I think Saturn is like cement and Mars is like where we're going. So even in spite of this, right around the time that Mercury is getting ready to finish its retrograde, we're actually seeing lots of stability. Now in Mars retrograde, we'll see another trine to Saturn down the road. That's going to be in a future episode, but just know that around the 27th, we start to kind of see things stabilize a little bit, Now we've got a full moon that's taking place in the sign of Pisces. It'll be at 17 degrees. This will be on September 10th. So I'll be doing videos about these throughout the month, but just know that if you've got any planets around 17 degrees of Pisces or the water signs, it's going to be most prominent for you because you'll experience either a conjunction in Pisces or trines. Earth signs will benefit from this as well, like in the form of sextiles. Virgo, this is your polar sign, so pay attention to that. And then we've got a new moon in Libra happening at 2 degrees, and that's going to be on September 25th, 2022. Now, this is interesting because this is right around the same degrees. It's within 2 degrees of that cazimi that we saw on September 22nd, and likely whatever information comes in around the 22nd is helping us set new intentions when it comes to balance and relationships around the end of September on the 25th. Now, this new moon is also going to be in slight opposition to Jupiter, so it's still quite optimistic, really positive. On new moons, we set new intentions. On full moons, we wrap things up. I'll talk more about this, but just know that the full moon in Pisces, we can see a little chaos. We can see people acting erratically. It's really important to stay grounded, to be practicing our spiritual stuff like yoga, meditation, getting adequate rest. I think we see a lot of this during, Virgo season. It's like, are we working too much to the point where it's affecting us spiritually, emotionally, or our sleep habits? So we're having to find balance. Then when we get into the new moon in Libra, I feel like there's lots of opportunity for just really finding more peace and the ability to set intentions revolving around more balance in our lives, especially when it comes to relationships. Now, obviously, this is going to be in a different area of your chart for everybody. So you want to look at where Pisces is. That's a full moon. You're wrapping something up you've been working on since the spring of this year. You want to look for where Libra is. You're setting new intentions for finding balance, and that will play out over the next 6 months. Now, we've got some ingresses this month also. We've got on September 4th, Venus is entering into the sign of Virgo. On September 22nd, the Sun enters into Libra, and that is going to be the fall equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere, the start of fall for us. On the 23rd of the month, we see Mercury in its retrograde re-entering Virgo, which I'm a fan of because I think we're going to have the ability to kind of really analyze and go through things and really like catch everything that we've missed and clean something up. And then on the 29th, we see Venus entering Libra. Some nice placements, guys. We're going to have, Mercury in Virgo, Venus in Libra. We're going to have Saturn in Aquarius. I mean, we've got some planets that are really singing their tunes in the astrological band, and everything is like really starting to kind of come together. And the sweet spot for me, even though we're looking at September, is actually going to be like the mid-October period. We're going to see wonderful air trines happening between planets in Libra, Saturn, and also Mars and Gemini. We come out of the Mercury retrograde, and it's that sweet spot right before we come into the eclipses. But obviously, the big news this month is going to be the Mercury retrograde. So if you want more information on that, do check out my videos that I've put out on that. And I do a more in-depth month ahead of September if you'd like to take a listen also. So these are going to be the September 2022 horoscopes. Please listen for your rising sun and moon sign in that order, okay? The sun is going to tell you more about what you want, what your ego wants. It's about your happiness, your career. It will relate. But I find that listening to your rising sign is going to be more accurate and tell you literally where these energies are playing out in your life. And your moon sign is important as well. It tells you what you really need to hear for emotional balance and wellness. So do listen to that. As always, I am a tropical Western astrologer, so I'm going to be using the whole sign method to make these predictions. When you do sessions with me, it's always going to be Placidus, but we got to do it this way for everybody for it to make sense. If you follow your chart in a sense of Placidus, you can listen to both, and that might make more sense for you specifically, especially relating to like the moons and stuff. Placidus can get a little bit more specific in terms of making predictions, okay? Let me grab some tarot cards really quick. I'm like looking around going like, where are my cards? Where are they? Okay. So, as always, I'll be pulling cards and giving you guys my predictions for what I see. Okay, let's get started. So we are going to start first with Aries and Aries rising. All right, so we're going to start off the month on the 2nd, and this is going to be when we see Mercury coming into an opposition with Jupiter. So we've got Mercury here. Mercury will be making an opposition to Jupiter, and that'll be on the 2nd. So look for good news. It's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. You might hear surprising things from relationships, from partners, from people from the past. It can also involve anything in regards to travel, information in regards to philosophy, beliefs, anything like that. There can just be good news. You're going to see this Mercury retrograde happen a couple times in opposition to Jupiter in your sign. Likely you're getting feedback from someone. You might be going back and forth and making changes in a relationship. You might be giving a partner some advice, might be changing a counselor. Something like that can be happening with that retrograde. Now on the 3rd, we have got Mars coming into shadow. Okay, so Mars in Gemini. This is important because Mars rules your chart because you're an Aries rising. Mars coming into shadow, you might feel things get a little bumpy. You might notice that there's just more activity in the 3rd house area of your life, which deals with your thought process, thinking, communications, cars, conversations with siblings, relatives, stuff like that. So Mars won't go retrograde to the end of October, but I think you're definitely going to see some stuff that's kind of just picking up speed and momentum, and you might start to see also because of these sextiles between Mars and Jupiter, where your insight, your intuition, your planning really helps you kind of move through this appropriately. Maybe you're thinking about learning a new language. Maybe you're thinking about teaching a course or taking a course, and you might be feeling a little adventurous and thinking about going somewhere with that sextile as well. But just know that for right now, it's coming into shadow, so pay attention to what's going on in 3rd house topics. On the 9th, we're going to see Mercury going retrograde, and Mercury does deal with conversations, contracts, agreements. Now, Mercury rules your 6th house of coworkers and help or assistance and pets. It also rules your 3rd house of daily routines or anything in regards to communication, vehicles, travel. I feel that with Mercury going retrograde here, you're communicating and talking to people more about your schedule. If you need help, you're speaking up. There can be some relationship discrepancies. There can be some meetings of the mind happening where you're not totally seeing eye to eye with another person. You might make changes in a counselor, make changes with an astrologer. You might have to talk to your partner about changes in your schedule or the fact that you want to make changes in your health routine. If you're looking for a new doctor or a new therapist, it's a wonderful way to use the retrograde, especially if you're looking for somebody who can help you kind of with your communication skills or be able to break down information. There can be changes also with your schedule at work, issues with coworkers, people calling in sick, people not coming in, you being short-staffed, and having issues with documents, getting work done. Also, if you need to get some work done on a car, if there's something like that going on, I could see that coming up for you as well. With Mars coming into a square with planets in your 6th house, it makes me feel like you can be kind of aggressive in how you're communicating with people, especially if you're in a rush and if you're finding that you're behind schedule with stuff. So just be mindful of how you communicate with other people, okay? On the 16th of the month, you're going to see that there is going to be a Venus-Mars square happening. Now, Mars rules your chart, Venus rules your 7th house. I think this is the friction that I was seeing coming up in terms of how you communicate with other people. It can be that you're just more assertive with somebody about needing to get the job done. It can mean that you're just feeling a little bit more antsy, and you might be feeling like you need to take a walk, you need to go and release, blow off some steam, go for a bike ride, read something, do something to kind of help diffuse that energy. You are more accident prone here, okay? Because Mars can be about vehicles in your 3rd house. You're more accident prone, or you're more prone to speaking up and saying something and speaking out of turn and hurting somebody's feelings, okay? So be mindful of that as well, please. Then on the 19th, we're going to be seeing trines that are going to be taking place. And these trines are going to be from Venus to the North Node Uranus aspect, so that'll play out over a couple days. Those trines are basically saying through adding a little bit of love, some assistance, getting some help, getting things organized, it's going to help you feel more solid and stable. I'm wondering if you're like talking to a dietitian, or if you're talking to somebody about organizing your space, or if you're talking to somebody about making changes in your health routine, if it's just making you feel more stable and secure in your body. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. Then we are going to be seeing Mercury on the 22nd going retrograde, and it will come into a cazimi. So at this point, Mercury and the Sun will be right in your 7th house, right along your 7th house cusp. This is going to possibly be like an epiphany that you have about a relationship or another person. Once again, Mercury rules your 3rd, okay, and it also rules your 6th. So this can be a day where you're talking to somebody, maybe you're interviewing somebody, maybe you're being interviewed. You could hear back from an old flame because the Sun rules your 5th. So there can be also a back and forth that you're having with a partner about your children because the Sun rules your 5th house of children. Perhaps, maybe there's a need to sit down and sort through a relationship as to whether or not you're still in love with somebody, or whether or not you still care about them, or they still care about you. That could be something else that plays out here as well. But look for really insightful epiphanies and information and conversations that you have with people right around the 22nd. Then on the 24th of the month, we're going to be seeing an opposition where Venus is going to come into opposition with Neptune. Okay, so Venus obviously rules your 7th house of other people, and also the 2nd house of resources or the body. I'm wondering if this is like a partner talking to you about a health matter, or just like a work dilemma, and just needing someone to vent to and needing someone to talk about it because they're feeling just really quite stressed. Now, it could be you doing this as well, because there's been some disturbances either in your routines or at work. We're also going to be seeing that the opposition to Neptune is where we're not seeing so clearly. Be careful, you know, there can be issues with like eating something that kind of, you know, upsets your tummy. It can be not a day to be making investments. If somebody says, hey, can I borrow some cash? I would be careful here, because Venus rules your 2nd house of your resources. Somebody might be doing something with some money, and it might not be totally clear what's kind of going on around that date. Then on the 25th of the month, we are going to be seeing that Venus in Virgo is coming into a trine with Pluto here in your 10th house. And, you know, I think Venus in the 6th, it's clearing out any issues in the office space, in the workspace. It's clearing out any issues with coworkers or issues with health or diet. And there's definitely going to be like a healing and a change and a transformation either at work or in terms of your health when this trine happens. But it also seems like it's something that needs to be cut out diet-wise, or cut out literally, or detoxing in some capacity to kind of feel better in your day-to-day life. Then we've got on the 26th of the month, Venus in Virgo moves to conjunct Mercury retrograde. So we've got Venus that will be in a conjunction to Mercury, but it'll be in your 6th house because Mercury has retrograded back to Virgo. So I'm wondering, are you going back and forth with a coworker? Are you thinking about quitting or ending a job? Is there some information that is revealed to you about your health, or is there some secret that comes out in regards to a relationship, right? Because Venus is the ruler of your 7th house. Any of these things are possible. That same day, we will also see that the Sun, which will be in Libra here, will oppose Jupiter in your 1st house. So likely, it can also be, you know, somebody who's interested in you, somebody who's pursuing you, somebody who's talking to you, they're interested in taking you out, going on a date, something like that. Maybe a partner is wanting to surprise you and saying, hey, like, we've had some issues, like, let's go and, you know, let's go on a trip, or let's get away, like, let's take a break, because Jupiter is the ruler of your 9th. And last but not least, on the 27th of the month, we've got Mercury retrograde. It'll be in Virgo over here, and it'll be in a trine to Pluto over here. Now, that's the 3rd time through the retrograde phase that Mercury has trined Pluto. It is going to be quite potent. I think it's going to be giving you the opportunity to really dig deep, get some information about making some really big changes in your health or your schedule. That seems to be the theme all month long. So that way you feel like you can get more work done, and you're feeling like as you're making these changes, you have more power when it comes to having control over your life, or more power when it comes to work in general, right? So some Aries, especially if you own your own business, there's a lot of like hiring and firing, you know, rearranging your schedule, trying to better kind of manage clients, things like that. This same day, we're going to be seeing Mars, which will be in Gemini in your 3rd house, in a trine to Saturn in Aquarius in your 11th. So it's cool because like this assertive nature that's coming through with you, where you're just really speaking your mind and talking to people and telling people what's up, and you've come up with like a strategy plan. It's really helping you get more done. It's really helping you make more better decisions, like you're spending your time more wisely. And when your planet Mars is in a trine to Saturn, you're incentivizing a group of people. Maybe you're planning a trip with friends. Maybe you're really talking to employees or staff, and you're motivating people, and you're able to get everybody to kind of join in and get their work done. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting looking at this. And that is the month at a glance. So yeah, you guys can come back and you can listen to this, see how it kind of resonates. Let's see what the cards have to say for you. Wow, King of Coins. Really just taking care of business. You know, I've thought this all month long, just watching Mars coming into a trine with Saturn in your chart. I thought that this was going to be something that was really going to help you kind of get everything in line and get focused and have an action plan. This can be about you working with a boss or a superior. It can be an earth sign, so look for Tauruses, Capricorns, or Virgos that can help. I wonder, especially with the Mercury retrograde in Virgo, is there a Virgo person who pops back into your life? Are you having to talk to them in some capacity? You know, something like that. But this is about handling things, managing things, especially when it comes to finances or business. I'm loving the earth trines for you this month. I think the trines between Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn is really saying you have to really get organized and you have to get things set, so that way you feel like you're on top of your money and your resources. You feel like you can get the job done, whether that's organizing your office space, your home, you know, sticking to a diet or a routine. This is really important for you, so you can feel like you're 100% and you can show up and get the job done. Okay? All right. Let's now take it to Taurus. Okay, Taurus, I hope you are doing well. I'm excited to see what the month has in store for you. The month is going to kick off with a Mercury opposition to Jupiter. So we see Mercury here. It will be in your 6th house of daily routine, coworkers, health habits, in an opposition to Jupiter in your 12th. Well, what does Mercury rule? Your 5th house of creativity, dating, and children. It also is the ruler of your 2nd house of money and resources. So I'm wondering if there is a need to be working in unison and talking to a partner, Libra, about moving your schedule around, dealing with health-related issues of your children, making some decisions about what needs to change and transform when it comes to either your dating life, your love life, or your creative projects, and getting them on track. Likely you'll get some good feedback. If you need help, help will arrive if you ask for it. Then on the 3rd, we're going to see Mars coming into shadow in your 2nd house of Gemini, okay? So Mars going through your 2nd house is going to have you feeling like spending money. It's like, okay, I have to buy this, and I have to buy that, and I have to spend money on this, and I have to spend money on that. It can be also increased appetites, increased sexual libido. It can be much more focused on your purchasing or your buying power. Mars rules your 12th house, which deals with travel, you know, unforeseen circumstances, and also your 7th house of other people. I have a hunch that with Mars going in this part of your chart, it's going to be about you realizing maybe that like a partner is spending money in a healthy way, that you're just having to spend more money on other people, you're having to buy gifts, cover expenses, things like that. You may be feeling like you need to get on the same page with a business partner, romantic partner, about spending habits as well. Now, Mars won't go retrograde till the end of October, but just pay attention here, because Mars is going to spend 7 months in this part of your chart. So you might be feeling like there's unexpected expenses that are just popping up left and right, and you're like, oh my gosh. Equally, Mars going through your 2nd house, which will inevitably build into a trine with Saturn, makes me feel like there is opportunity for you to be charging more, raising your prices, right? And if you're really busy and you're feeling like there's just a lot more expenses than usual, maybe you're looking at your overhead costs, realizing that, you know, you're going to be raising your prices at the end of the year or coming into next year, and maybe letting clients know or people know that there's going to be some changes in some resources. Then on the 9th, we have got Mercury going retrograde. So it'll start its retrograde in your 6th house, the daily routine and health, and it'll be in the sign of Libra, and it'll work its way back into Virgo in your 5th house of children, romance, and creative projects, playtime. I feel like this is a partner probably saying to you, Libra, we need to make more time for date night. You know, we need to make more time for romance. We need to bring back the spice. We need to pick up all the toys. The kids are super messy. You know, maybe we need to find some support where we can hire a babysitter, you know, hire somebody to come in and watch the animals or water the plants, so we can kind of have a little bit of a break and maybe get away for a little bit. That's something that might happen as well. Then on the 16th, we see Venus and Mars square. So we've got Venus in Virgo in your 5th house of dating and romance. Venus is really happy in the 5th house, so it can be bringing lots of opportunity for having fun. But in the sign of Virgo, it's possibly like hobbies. This can be more like spending money on fitness stuff or health-related things, maybe like trying to go on a short little trip or something that's going to be like out camping, or maybe out in the wilderness, or just closer to nature. But with Venus's square to Mars, it might cost a little bit. Somebody might say to you, like, you know, let's do something more romantic, and you're probably feeling like you're having to spend a little bit more money to have a little bit more of a nicer time. I'm not upset at it. I think that friction is really nice because you're going to indulge a little bit with a partner, and you might be spending a little bit more money on hobbies or just going out with a loved one. Certainly there can be some pressure or some tension when we see squares, and it can be about children, whether this is like fertility stuff or things in relation to spending on children and the expenses in regards to kids. On the 19th of the month, we're going to see trines happening, and that's going to be taking place between Venus and the North Node, and it'll also come into trines with Uranus a couple days later. Now, this is important because Venus rules your chart, so whenever we see a square or a conjunction, oppositions with Venus, we want to pay attention. So Venus, which rules you, yourself, your body, and it also rules your 6th house of health and routine, is going to be in a trine to the North Node and Uranus. Okay, so I see this as mid-month being like, I'm taking charge of my health. I'm taking charge of what I'm eating. I'm taking charge of my appearance. Loving yourself, taking care of yourself, treating yourself, being good to yourself in new, different, innovative ways. And it might also result in just a new version of yourself that is emerging through these trines. Physical, practical. I could see it as, you know, practicing a lot of self-love, a little bit more self-pampering, and bringing more attention to just, yeah, your appearance in general. And there can be some changes that are kind of happening there. Then on the 22nd of the month, we're going to see a cazimi taking place between the Sun and Mercury. Now, at this point in time, the Sun's just entering into Libra, highlighting your 6th house of health, coworkers, daily routine. Mercury coming into conjunction makes me feel like there's going to be some kind of like an awareness, a reorganization, a reworking of your schedule, something changing in terms of your day-to-day life. Now you've got your 5th house Lord, which is children, your 10th house Lord, which is home and family, coming into conjunction in the 6th house. I'm wondering, are you deciding to reorganize the house? Are you fixing a project? Are you cleaning something up? Are you organizing or labeling things? Is there some kind of information that you end up receiving from a partner, because it's in Libra, about a family matter, a health matter, a matter in regards to, yeah, just health and wellness? So look for that. That might pop in unexpectedly. And then we have on the 24th, an opposition is going to be taking place between Venus in Virgo and Neptune in Pisces. So Venus in the 5th is quite pleased, but you know, Venus is your chart ruler. So this could be you being like, I love this, or I'm really into this, or I really love this person. And Neptune in the 11th makes me feel like there can be a sense of not feeling like your love life and your goals are a little disjointed. You can also be questioning, like, where is the friend when I'm in need? I'm going through a situation, like, where is my friend? Because Neptune's in your 11th house. An opening and an awareness I see with Venus in opposition to Neptune about how your goals are changing and transforming, because this is an immutable sign. So you might be realizing your goals in regards to children or investments or relationships are changing in some way. Not a day to make investments, not a day to idealize people. Be careful, because there can be some things with, you know, somebody who is a friend, not quite being a friend, or somebody who might add you on like a social network or something. And yeah, it can get a little messy for those of you guys who are actually in relationships. Then on the 25th, we see Venus and Virgo come into a conjunction with Mercury. So Venus and Mercury will be in your 5th house. Once again, highlighting your Venus, Mercury, which is about money. And it can also be about investments. Be careful with investments. Like I could see somebody being like, you should invest in this, you should do this, and you think it's a good idea, but it may not necessarily play out the way that you think it's going to play out. And you might get a tip from a friend is kind of the feeling that I'm getting. And you're going back and forth about, do I do this, do I not do this? And like it may not necessarily play out the way that you think it's going to play out. I hate to say that, but there can be some disappointment. Now, the same day, we're actually going to have the sun, which at this point will be in Libra here in your 6th house, in opposition to Jupiter, right? Watch for like male figures having health problems, needing to go for some kind of treatment, or having to go to a center, or anything in regards to hospitals or where they can rest. This can also be bringing up like health issues and, you know, needing to kind of like rest a little bit more. And that something is changing and transforming in regards to health of a family figure. Then we have on the 25th of the month, Mercury will go retrograde back. It'll be in Virgo here in your 5th house, and it's in a trine over here to Pluto. Okay, not quite a trine. This is more a trine. There we go. So trines are free-flowing energy. So to have Mercury, which rules your money and your security, in a trine with Pluto, it looks like there's a conversation you're having with a partner about travel, legal, law, publishing, education, and getting something kind of structured and ironed out and organized. That's going to be later in the month. The same day, we're also going to have Mars in Gemini in your 2nd house, coming into a trine with Saturn. That's wonderful. So this tells me that you've got somebody fighting for you, or you've got a partner supporting you, because Mars rules your 7th. And with that trine to Saturn, it's really saying you're like laying the foundation for like building stuff financially, building stuff in regards to your career. You're really using your intuition and your belief and your faith to be able to kind of put something into action and to see a vision come into fruition fully, okay? So let's see what the cards have to say for you, Taurus. Card that I get is the 3 of Wands. Moving forward with your goals, being optimistic, having a plan, orchestrating that. It's not just about thinking about it. It's being like, no, we've picked a lane. This is where we're going. This can also be an indication of like potential travel. I wonder if that's going to be the case with Mars trine Saturn. Maybe you're planning something for later this year and you're trying to get finances and work also kind of organized so that way you can swing this. But this is really positive in terms of moving into something that's going to be more fun and adventurous in the future. All right, so let's now take it to Gemini and Gemini rising. Hey Gemini, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. We are going to be talking about all the astrology for the month of September, and we're going to kick it off with, let's see, so we're going to kick it off with the Mercury opposition that is going to be taking place on the 2nd. So we've got Mercury that's hanging out in a sister sign, Libra. It's in your 5th house, which deals with dating and romance and children. Obviously, this is important because Mercury rules your chart. So Mercury is about conversations, communication, information, sharing of ideas. Mercury coming into an opposition with Jupiter. Okay, so Jupiter rules your 7th house. So I have a feeling this is about you taking a shot, reaching out to somebody, wanting to join a group or a club. This can also be about you just reconnecting with friends, wanting to have a good time. This can be about you reevaluating topics like children, self-employment, and your love life. The opposition to Jupiter might be you being like, hey, can we have more time for fun if you are in a relationship? We need to have some fun time, you know, we need some more intimacy, we need to get out and we need to do something. You might be talking to your partner more about goals when it comes to travel or trips, or goals when it comes to children, but pretty positive. Listen to your hunches around the time of this opposition. Then on the 3rd of the month, we're going to see Mars is entering shadow at 8 degrees in your sign. Now, Mars is going to spend 7 months almost in the sign of Gemini, so you're going to be feeling a little ramped up. Work with this energy really between now and the end of October before Mars turns retrograde, because then you're going to lose a little momentum. You're going to feel tired. You're going to be a little less sure of what direction you're going in terms of your goals, and there's definitely going to be a little bit of conflict because it's going to square Neptune in your 10th, and you're trying to figure out where you're going with your career. So work with Mars in your first house. Get motivated, get active. If you need to get physical, if you need to be writing down your goals, if you need to be just more communicative in terms of reaching out to people, because Mars rules your 11th house of friends, and making the time and getting organized and scheduling with people regularly, because you might have a little bit less steam later in the fall. But just know that it's entering into shadow during this time, so you might start kind of noticing that your goals are changing in some way. Now, while this is happening, Mars will be in a sextile to Jupiter too, so that's telling me that you're sharing lots of your goals with your friends and possibly even with your partner, and you have some exciting news maybe about things that you're working on or new developments in a relationship. On the 16th, we're going to see Venus and Mars are going to square. So Venus in Virgo in your 4th house is going to square Mars. It could be a woman in the home that is maybe visiting. It could be family that's visiting, so like sisters, you know, cousins, mothers, things like that. Venus rules the 5th house, so it could also be a female child. Venus also rules Taurus, which is the 12th house. So you can have like a female relative that's driving you like a little batty, and you're a little short-tempered because it's in a square to Mars in your sign. There can also be like much more of like a zest for life that you have, and maybe you're just, you know, wanting to have more intimacy, romance, and you're just having a lot more kind of playfulness and friction that's creating chemistry with somebody that you're living with. But look for that, because you're definitely going to see that somebody might be like, hey, slow down, don't be so aggressive, you know, during that square. On the 19th of the month, we're going to see trines taking place, and this is going to be between Venus in Virgo coming into trines with both the North Node and then eventually Uranus mid-month. Venus trine the North Node is wonderful. I mean, I do think that it is happening in water houses though, so it can be that if a female has been experiencing some health issues, if older relatives maybe have been having some health issues, there can be a need for treatment, rest, recuperation, you know, going to healing centers, hospitals with that trine. I also feel like this can be about, you know, hidden love, love from the past, foreign love, because it's making trines to the North Node in your 12th house. Now, eventually Venus will come into a trine with Uranus, which is why I have a feeling that this can be endings of home, you know, conflict, family conflict, endings in regards to changing and transforming your home, selling homes, moving homes, or maybe you just discover, you know, somebody you've reconnected with from the past, but they live in a different place, right? Because it's ruled by Uranus. Any of these things can transpire. I would just say that you've got Earth planets in what are typically water houses, so we're going to be feeling very emotional about physical changes that are taking place mid-month. Then on the 22nd, we're going to see a Sun-Mercury cazimi happening in the sign of Libra at 0 degrees. Now, it's in a fellow sister sign, so you're going to see Sun and Mercury conjunct, which is really highlighting, oh my gosh, I'm communicating with this person, or I'm calling them a lot, or I'm talking to them a lot, or I'm talking to a sister or a cousin, or they call me suddenly and they let me know some kind of information, likely about the family or about the past or about real estate, because it's ruled by Mercury. that can be a turning point. That can be an epiphany about, you know, needing to go home, needing to return back to see family, needing to wrap up a domestic thing or something involving real estate. Then on the 24th, we're going to see then Venus in Virgo coming into an opposition with Neptune. Now, Venus obviously rules your hidden realm. It also rules lovers, romance, children. With it in your 4th house in opposition to Neptune, it's a lot of like, you know, I have to deal with this family situation. How am I going to show up for work? Or I've got to deal with a living situation. You know, I can't even possibly think about my career right now. I've got bigger fish to fry. And something changing most likely in regards to your home life or your private life, and a need to possibly feel like you need to abandon work or responsibilities for a little bit to just cope or deal with whatever this change is. It might be important to just really communicate and share, you know, with work or with bosses that there's something that you need to deal with in the home front and that you just can't really show up right now. So that way you don't seem evasive. Then on the 25th of the month, we are going to see Venus then trine Pluto, and it'll be Venus in Virgo still in your 4th house, trining Pluto in your 8th. And this was what makes me think like there's an ending, there's something that wraps up, there is a letting go, you know, you have a final sale in a house, you finally get paid for something, you get your inheritance. Maybe you're dealing with some kind of like theme of death or transformation. I don't like saying that, but Pluto is the god of death, and Pluto rules your 6th house. So something about your schedule is changing, or something about the health possibly of a family member, and them needing some kind of care. Okay. Last but not least, we then have on the 26th of the month, we're going to be having a, oh, actually, you know what, one other thing. Venus on the 26th, we're going to see Venus coming into a conjunction with Virgo and Mercury. So that's going to be happening all here. It's still part of that. Something's going on with the home or the family front. Same day, we're also going to see the Sun in Libra coming into opposition with Jupiter. So it makes me feel like you have some support from a partner, or you have some support from a friend to kind of work through some kind of issue in regards to your love life, or possibly with children. Okay, so then at the end of the month on the 26th, we're going to see Mercury trine Pluto. So we touched on that. And we're also going to be seeing Mars in a trine with Saturn. Saturn is the ruler of the 8th house of other people's resources. Mars is going to have you willing to fight and be direct and be aggressive and go after what you want. So if somebody has kind of done you dirty, if somebody owes you something, you might lawyer up. You might need to talk to an attorney or get legal counsel. You might be saying, okay, I am going to go after them and get what I'm owed. I am going to stand up for myself and fight for myself. Or I am traveling, I am publishing the book, I am teaching the class, I am going back to school, right? It's all 9th house stuff. But it's some way of being able to change and transform also your beliefs and your philosophies. So you got to actually believe in it, you know, really channel your inner warrior and get in touch with that, so that way you really feel like you're walking the walk and talking the talk. As we get into the month later and even into October, Mars will start squaring Neptune, and then there's like a sense of like, wait, where am I going? You might feel a little disoriented this month too, with planets going through Virgo, especially in the mid-September period. So there can be a sense of you being more frustrated and aggravated because you're feeling like things are changing on the home and the work front. So I would just say, watch the temper, be mindful of that. You can have some fierce fighting words this month, Gemini. The card that I got for you is the Four of Wands. So this is positive in spite of some of the kind of messiness we're seeing with some of these mutable squares. Temporary spaces, this too shall pass. But it does say that there can be some happy coincidences, some opportunities to reconnect with people. That is very pleasant, especially in like a social scene. You know, this can be like bars, restaurants, you know, going to parties, going to events. And I'm looking at Mercury retrograde in your 5th, and maybe you're like, you know what, I've had so much stuff going on. I need to have fun. I need to go out for a drink. I need to have a good time. But this can also be parties and celebrations, engagements, weddings, things like that. So you might be invited to some of those things that maybe that's the Mercury opposed Jupiter. You know, you've got somebody who's being like, you know what, we're having a big party, come. And you're like, I'm in the midst of like moving and family stuff. And they're like, you need a break. When given the opportunity to go and participate in some of this stuff, please do, because it's going to lighten the mood a little bit. And it does seem like there is going to be a celebration to be had. Okay, so let's take this to Cancer and Cancer rising. What's up, Cancer? Hope you're doing well. Let's take a look at what the stars have in store for you this month. Don't mind me, I'm just moving my mouse around. Okay. So the month is going to kick off first with a Mercury opposition. So we've got Mercury in Libra in your 4th house of house and home. Backtracking, rethinking about your roots, your heritage, your family, reconnecting with a family member, possibly your mother, reworking some kind of squabble that you've had in regards to a home or real estate issue. Maybe you're thinking about where you need to move. Maybe you're kind of in transition. Maybe you're thinking about going back home. Maybe you're thinking about reaching back out and asking for help. Any of these things can be happening. Mercury's in opposition to Jupiter. So this is optimistic. It's like in spite of some things changing emotionally or on the home front, you're optimistic about expansion in your career. It is possible you're reaching out to family and telling them the good news about some stuff that's happening in your professional life. Now, Mercury rules your 12th house of subconscious and self-undoing and 3rd house of communication. So maybe you're talking to family about the fact that you want to move home, or you're reconnecting with a sibling or somebody and talking to them about the fact that you've been kind of like going through it. You've been rethinking some things, and there's been a sense of dealing with anxiety and trying to figure out where you're going to kind of land. It can also be just you're sharing information with like a close relative or a sibling just about what's really on your mind and what you've been working through. On the 3rd of the month, Mars moves into shadow. So Mars is going to spend about 7 months in Gemini in your 12th house. You might feel a little restless. There can be a sense of you needing a private space to work behind the scenes, looking for an office. I say that because Mars rules your 10th house. So maybe you're kind of like trying to focus on getting grounded and resting, but you also are like, I know I need to work. I need to find a job, or I need to book some work, or I need to make a change at work. Maybe you're working a job and you're hustling and you're trying to work on something behind the scenes. Just know that you do need more rest and recuperation. It can be harder to find. Mars in the 12th house can also bring lots of opportunities for secret sexual connections, because this is the house of bed pleasures, and Mars is the ruler of your 5th house of lovers and having fun. So there can definitely be like some romance going on behind the scenes in the midst of this, feeling very creative and very inspired as well. On the 9th of the month, finally Mercury does turn retrograde, so it'll be going retrograde in your 4th house. Likely that's when you are rethinking connecting with somebody from the past. You may hear from partners from the past because it's in Libra. It's a good time to like mend relationship issues, especially if you're living with someone, or kind of put the kibosh on relationship issues that just didn't pan out, and finally get your things back from an ex, or like finally like move out of somebody's place if it hasn't been working for some time. Then on the 16th, we have got Venus in a square with Mars. So Venus in Virgo in your 3rd, in a square with Mars in your 12th, okay? So Venus rules home family. It also rules friends, and it's in friction with Mars, which is about career. Oh boy, I'm wondering, is there some tense conversations and things going on where you're, you know, having some squabbles about your love life and your family? Possible. Venus, you know, rules, like I said, your family, but it also rules your friendship. So it looks like you've got some of these people that are like telling you, like, get over the breakup, let that person go. They're not good for you. You know, you can't hide things from us. Like it's time for you to really heal and work through something or move through something. You may also just get some tough love advice, I think, from a family member about what direction you need to go with your career. And it'll definitely feel a little tough love. On the 16th of the month, we're going to see trines between Venus and Virgo, and both the North Node and Uranus in Taurus in your 11th house. Part of these tough love conversations, I also feel like, are about people being like, saying to you, you know, this is what you need to change and transform. And it can be about your finances, your spending habits. It can be about your goals in life. It can be people saying to you know, I love you, but this is what you need to do. You can be getting some really helpful, insightful information from neighbors, siblings, and also close friends here about how to radically change and transform your life and like really start to really get on the path of like making your goals happen. There can be new friends that can show up also that can add, you know, positive words of encouragement to kind of help you push things along. On the 22nd of the month, we have got a Sun-Mercury cazimi happening in Libra, and it's in your 4th house. This can be a little challenging for you, Cancer, because you're going to have the Sun and Mercury, which is kind of just blasted wide open with all kinds of conversations with either home or family about your financial situation or money, especially if like you owe money to someone, or like if you haven't paid rent or something. This can be like a confrontational day. But it's going to oppose Jupiter up here in your 10th house. So you're really focused on work and what you're doing work-wise, but your attention's being brought to your home and your family. And then it's also going to be in a square to your ascendant if you're an ascendant rising. So you're more emotional than usual throughout this. You might see some tears. You might, get your feelings hurt a little bit. There can also be a sense of like you feeling stuck because you're like, okay, well, this is my comfort zone and I don't know how to move forward in my career. And I also am feeling like I'm experiencing some tension with home and family, and there could be some waterworks. But there can be like a positive reconnection with family or a relationship partner from the past, and they could literally show up at your house, or they could ask you to come over. On the 24th of the month, we're going to see Venus in Virgo forming an opposition to Neptune in Pisces. Neptune rules 9th house, which is law, travel, legality, publishing, education. And Venus obviously rules like family, and it rules anything in regards to your friendships. Venus will be in the 3rd house though. So Venus in the 3rd house makes me feel like there's a lot of conversations that you're having with people. It can be stuff in regards to vehicles too, or documents involving money and money owed, or things that you're filing in regards to financial proof if you need assistance. Especially if you're applying for a program, applying for a grant, if you're applying for school. Just be really careful with like your passwords, sharing money, transferring money, especially on apps or anything like that. And there can be some visibility issues in terms of not seeing the bigger picture and not reading the fine print, especially pertaining to leases. If you're somebody who's moving in the midst of this makes me a little nervous, because you've got a Mercury opposed Neptune, where it's like, you don't want to like pay a deposit for a place you haven't physically seen, right? You don't want to like send the money and then be like, I'll come pick up the keys, because you might get screwed. This can also be a time where you're looking to like release or sell a vehicle, and I would say, if you're looking to sell a vehicle, be honest with the state of the vehicle. There can be like a sense of you being like, I can get X amount for it, and then you realize what it's really worth, because there could be some damages. Issues with like falsifying information, or like photos that just don't make sense. Then on the 25th of the month, we see Venus come into a trine with Pluto. Something cathartic happening, like being able to finally clear out the muck in a relationship, and like being able to get to the other side of it and feeling like you are coming out, on top, that you're feeling better, you're healing something, finally putting an old relationship issue to rest in a positive, peaceful way, because Venus rules your 4th house. This can also be a time where you're communicating and you're telling somebody like your real, true feelings very intensely, calling them, writing, speaking very passionately from the heart about how you're truly feeling about some relationship issues. This can also be with counselors, therapists, or just people who you work with, business professionals as well. Then on that same day, we're also going to see the Sun, which will be in Libra, it'll be in your 4th house, coming into an opposition with Jupiter. So sudden opportunities work-wise that come from family maybe, that are willing to, help you out, give you a job, help you on your way, help pay a bill, help you find a place to live. You might get some like really lucky kind of support this day, and you're going to be feeling a little bit more optimistic about moving forward. Then on the 27th of the month, we're going to be seeing, 26th, 27th, we're going to be seeing let me go back. The 26th, we're going to be seeing Venus in Virgo conjunct retrograde. Okay, so Mercury is retrograde at this point in Virgo. It's going to be conjunct Venus in your 3rd house. Reconnecting with a sibling, hearing from somebody from the past, reviewing a lease or a contractual agreement. Really pay attention to that, because that's an important day. Okay, now on the 27th, we're going to be seeing Mercury trine Pluto. So Mercury will be in your 3rd house here, and it'll be in a trine to Pluto where there's like a legally binding agreement maybe. Maybe you finally tell somebody what's up and you're like, I love you, but this has to be done. Like we're calling this, a wrap here. It can also be a time where you receive a really important email or phone call in regards to some kind of support from another person. Heart-to-heart conversations in relationships as well, business or romantic. Then on the same day, we're going to see Mars in Gemini coming into a trine with Saturn. So there's like a shift happening. It's a transformation because Saturn's in your 8th house of other people's resources. And Mars makes me feel like maybe you're seeking to change and transform your financial situation. Maybe you're looking to try to get a loan or get some support to help you pay for an office or help you kind of take time to work behind the scenes. Other people's money factors into this somehow, though, because Saturn does rule other people's resources. You are seeing the return of the Saturn-Uranus squares this month. I should have said that for all of the signs. I'll talk about it on my channel, but this makes me feel like tension in regards to like your goals versus the money that you have and if you're getting support from others. Being that Mars rules your career, though, in a trine to Saturn, it makes me feel like the right people will help you, but it can be people behind the scenes. It can be nonprofit. It can be people who come out of the blue. It's really important for you to be like focusing on like chanting, meditation, you know, fitness, anything that's going to help you work this energy out of your body and like stay on track with really coming into your goals. Jupiter's going retrograde over, you know, your midheaven, so there is lots of good stuff coming for your career, but you have to believe it. It's very important that you believe it, okay? Let's take a look at what the cards have to say for you. I get the 6 of Swords, and I cannot say I'm surprised. I wonder, are some of you guys going back home? Are you visiting family? Are you moving? What's the deal? This is the card of being in transition, which really makes sense with all these retrograde things going on in your 3rd and your 4th house. It could be somebody wants to move back in. You want to return home somewhere. You're thinking about finding a new apartment. It really just depends, but something like this is going to come up this month. And you might be rethinking, do I want to move? Do I want to go to a new neighborhood? You know, do I want to pick up and do something different altogether? Do I want to have, you know, a mobile place that I'm like living in? Do I not want to live in a house at all? Do I want to be on wheels? But 6 of Swords talks about being in limbo. Could be for about 6 days, could be 6 weeks, but it does say you're going off to a much more peaceful place. So even though you might be uncomfortable being in limbo right now, relationship-wise, living-wise, right? It's all going to break free and you're going to see that you're moving into a much more peaceful situation and things are going to start to really come together. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Mind over matter. This is the element of air. So it's important for you to be breathing. It's important for you to be really focusing, journaling, you know, about where you're going and not getting too fixated on the fact that you're in limbo right now. Okay, so let's now switch to Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? How's it going? Welcome to September of 2022. We have got the month kicking off with a Mercury opposition that's going to be taking place for you. We've got Mercury, let me get my little marker here. We've got Mercury in Libra in your 3rd house. Mercury's definitely pleased to be in the 3rd house. That does well there. Rethinking contracts, agreements. You know, you also might be contemplating thinking about moving, maybe trying to find ways to reconnect or communicate with other people, whether it's a relationship or siblings. That could be the case. Mercury rules your 2nd house of money, and it also rules your 11th house of friends and goals. So I'm wondering if you're like trying to find ways with this opposition to possibly communicate better with a romantic partner or, you know, expressing your goals or your desires. Maybe you're feeling like you want to be traveling, but it's just not coming together. Maybe you're feeling like you want to go somewhere with a romantic partner, but it's just not happening. Maybe because Mercury is going retrograde into your 2nd, you're reevaluating your financial situation before you plan anything. Definitely a month where there's like a lot of reorganizing money and resources. Trust me on this, because Mercury is going to go back into your 2nd house. So watch the spending. With Mercury opposed Jupiter, though, I think it's about you being like, wow, I really want to do this. So maybe you're planning to go on a trip, or you're planning to take a course or do something later in the year. You're just assessing your resources first. Then on the 3rd of the month, we are going to be seeing that Mars in Gemini comes into shadow. So Mars is eventually at the end of October going to turn retrograde. It's going to slow down. Mars rules education, travel, philosophy. It also rules home. I'm wondering if some of you guys are planning on moving. Definitely Mars going retrograde in your 11th. You're going to reconnect with friends. You're going to hear from people. You may not be as social You might not be going out and doing things as much once that retrograde happens, but man, for like the next month and a half, you're going to be quite social with Mars in your 11th house. And we are also going to see Mars start coming in, forming trines with Saturn, which will be nice because a lot of activity with friends and also building partnerships and relationships and possibly spending time with a romantic partner as well. But that's a little down the road. Just know that shadow is happening, so you might start to see conflicts or, you know, some issues with some of your friends or goals, especially like issues with communication. Now on the 9th, we're going to see Mercury goes retrograde in Libra, and that'll be in your 3rd house. Read the fine print. There could be some hangups with moving, some delays, miscommunications, once again with partners or with siblings. Mercury will go retrograde back into your 2nd. So I think it's going to be you also asking yourself, like, when I'm in need, who can I call? Like, who do I value? Like, what friends do I hold on to? Which ones do I let go of? Like, who's really there for me? Because Mercury rules your 11th house of friendships and goals. On the 16th, we're going to have Venus in Virgo coming into a square with Mars. Venus in your 2nd house wants pleasure. It wants nice things. It wants stability. It wants to indulge a little bit. And with the square to Mars, I could see it as you kind of being like, okay, well, you know, I want to spend or I want to do this. And friends are like, I don't know if I want to do that. You may not be on the same page with what you want to spend for a party or going on a trip. On the flip side, this square is also really nice in terms of like passion and sensuality. So you can be just spending a little bit more, enjoying yourself more, going and being a little bit more indulgent with friends. Watch out for friction over money and resources with friendships though, because that can definitely crop up. On the 19th of the month, we're then going to see Venus start coming into trines with both the North Node and Taurus in your 10th house, which is bringing opportunities for more money, doing really well in your career, really showing up, like, you know, getting everything done and being rewarded. I think that is possible. I think through this Mercury retrograde, some Leos are going to renegotiate their salaries or have the ability to kind of ask for more or gain more benefits in some way. And then when Venus is in a trine to Uranus right here, that is going to highlight your 7th house Lord, and Venus deals with communication and it also deals with career. So it makes me feel like also you're talking to partners about your relationship and your public status, and you might be making some announcements about your relationships, that you're going to the next level with a partnership. Something is dramatically changing, or you're taking on a new business partner. Maybe you're investing money in a new way and you're putting more money into your business or into yourself, and you're just showing up differently in the world. Very big time for you right now, Leo risings, when it comes to your career. Venus trine Uranus also, I think, is just going to be possibly sudden changes in your income that is leading to some changes around the home front for your partner. Then we have on the 22nd, a Sun Mercury Cazimi. This will be in Libra in your 3rd house. This is important because the Sun rules your chart. Mercury is about money. So there's some like epiphany that maybe you have about money, investments, your self-worth, that you're worth more. Like you might look around and be like, I am worth more than this. You might find something unexpectedly out of the blue when it comes to a car, a vehicle, a really important conversation, or an email that pops in, or a meeting about money and income or investments, or a new money-making opportunity might arrive. Insightful conversations with siblings as well. Then on the 24th of the month, we're going to have Venus in Virgo in opposition to Neptune. This makes me wonder, though, you know, first you have the Venus trine, and then you have Venus opposed Neptune. This is your money. This is other people's money. So I would say, like, be careful what you're buying into. Be careful what you're investing in. There can be some financial scams when this is happening. You know, Neptune is somebody else's money. So things might be going really well for you financially, and it may not be doing as well for a partner, and a partner might be kind of having some financial challenges. And you might be looking around being like, am I the one building this, you know? Or, you know, I know they're working. Why aren't they contributing? There can be something that's being held back in terms of clarity with resources. So be mindful of that. Really look for financial scams. Be very careful also with like banking because Venus in Virgo is very mercurial. So it can be like pins and, you know, checking your bank statements online and stuff, making sure that there wasn't any suspicious activity. Then we have on the 25th, Venus then moves to trine Pluto in your 6th. I like this actually. This makes me feel like something's been sorted. You've worked through whatever the miscommunication was. You are able to eat something different, rectify a health issue, hire the right person to come in and help you kind of handle or tackle a job, especially if it's like organizing or something in regards to like accounting, maybe like fitness, something like that. Maybe you're having to put a little bit more money into your home or your home base because Pluto rules your 4th house, and you're spending a little bit more money on how things look and feel aesthetically within the home, but you're choosing natural products and things that are going to be more organic, or things that are going to be more comfortable. Then on the 26th of the month, we see Venus and Mercury will conjunct. So Venus, it will still be in Virgo. Mercury will be retrograde. So if you have Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus, that tells me there's like a reworking of something or a renegotiation of something professionally. Maybe you're waiting to hear back from a client if they're going to work with you. Maybe you're waiting to hear if you get the job or if you get the raise. Likely there's going to be some insightful information that comes up about this around the 26th. Same day, we're going to have the sun in Libra in your 3rd house in opposition to Jupiter. So you're going to be like, wow, there's like a lucky opportunity, you know, this came through, we can plan the vacation, or, I learned all about the legal stuff that I need to about, starting my own business. So I'm going to be, opening a corporation, because it does deal with insight, belief, philosophy, something that you read that really changes your perspective, or some kind of like inspirational talk or something that you end up listening to that makes you feel like, you know what, I can do it. And you're feeling very creatively inspired. Then on the 27th, we're going to have Mercury in Virgo in your 2nd house of money and resources, trine Pluto. So it looks like you've sorted out the financial thing, the work thing, everything's kind of flowing a little bit better. This will be the 3rd time we'll see that trine, and it's also going to be about funding and stuff in regards to your home base and like what you're paying for home. So if you're trying to figure out how to get work in alignment so you can buy a house, you can qualify for a house, so you can, move into a new place, that can all be taking place. Same day, we've got Mars in Gemini coming into a trine with Saturn. The good thing is like, look, you've got either friends or family in high places, and they are willing to go to bat and support you. So if you are having relationship issues, if you are having challenges in regards to work stuff, friends are going to be very motivating. You're going to be really on top of your goals, really adamant about what you want. You're receiving a lot of love from friends, and just a lot more activity with like your goals coming into alignment with your relationships, whether this is romantic or your business partnerships. They're now starting to kind of work in unison together. Okay, let's take a look and see what the cards have to say for you for the month ahead, Leo. The card that I get is the Page of Cups. So look for help from a water sign. Could be a Cancer, Pisces, or a Scorpio. This can also be a younger person. This can be talking about new opportunities and just feeling inspired emotionally, and romantic connections and sweet connections that you're having with others. I'm wondering if this is like the month where things really come full circle and you start to kind of like really realize like, wow, I have a lot of love in my life. Like really, people really appreciate me. I've got somebody who's speaking kindly and sweetly to me. Somebody can return with Mercury retrograde in your 3rd and be calling you, texting you, telling you how they feel, really sharing and exposing their true feelings for you. So that's something else that could be coming up with this card as well. Look for opportunities for sweetness and possibly even at the beginning of new relationships. Okay, so now we have got Virgo and Virgo rising. Welcome to September of 2022. If it is your birthday, if you are a September Virgo, happy birthday. And then Libra will be next, but I'll get to you, Libra, don't worry. All right, so let's go ahead and start the month off. Obviously, lots of retrograde action. Mercury rules your chart. So if Mercury is retrograde, you already want to pay attention, but it's retrograde in your sign. It'll be going from Libra to your 1st house. So this is a big month for both Virgo and Libra. The month starts off with a Mercury in Libra 2nd house opposition to Jupiter in Aries 8th house opposition. So this is you, Mercury, in your 2nd house. You're like reevaluating What can other people pay me? You know, where is my money coming from? Some of you guys might be in between jobs, looking for a new job, looking at your budget, looking at your spending, trying to figure out what you can afford, right? Literally, Mercury is you. In opposition to Jupiter, you might be talking to family, Jupiter rules your fourth, about your financial situation. So likely there can be some support if you need it that comes from family, or on the flip side, you're reevaluating your financial situation if somebody on the home front needs help. So if a sibling or a parent needs you to travel to them, needs you to help fund something, if they need you to come home, they might be asking you, are you coming home this holiday? And you're like, I don't know, I'm in between, you know, work and I've got a lot of expenses. I don't know if I can swing it. You might actually hear that somebody is willing to kind of help you out and make it possible for you to come back home and visit if that's something that you'd like to do. Good news also in regards to banking and resources and finances, loans as well. So, you know, you might get some good news about paying off a loan. Then on the 3rd of the month, Mars enters shadow. So Mars is going to spend 7 months in Gemini, and that will be in your 10th house of career. If you don't have a job, you're probably going to have more than one, or you're going to be really busy, or you're reevaluating what is it you really want to do. But if you're looking for work, work will be there. It's just going to be a bit hectic because you're going to see some squares between your planets in Virgo and also your Neptune in Pisces transit, where you're like, if I'm working this much, I don't have time for a relationship, or a partner's being like, you're working too much, where are you? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna feel like you're being pulled from all different angles. But Mars is coming into shadow, so you might start to see the beginning of some breakdowns in regards to work, especially if there's funding issues for a company that you're working for, or lending issues. That might be something that kind of pops up there. You might be hearing that they're making cutbacks, or they're gonna be making changes in budgets. That is possible towards the end of the year. As Mars goes retrograde, it'll be the end of October, and you can be definitely rethinking or reworking what it is that you really want to be doing out in the world. If you don't like your job, you might change it. You might go back to an old position. You might be doing two things. Then on the 9th of the month, Mercury goes retrograde in Libra in your 2nd house. And this is important because, like I said, it rules your sign. Definitely time to look at your budget, be looking at what you're eating, looking at your spending habits, your self-esteem. You're reworking all of these things, especially because Mercury rules your body. And Mercury also rules your responsibility. So you're kind of like, is this my responsibility? Am I supposed to be responsible for this? Or it's my responsibility to eat well, to take care of myself, and to work on my self-esteem, 2nd house. On the 16th of the month, we have got Venus in your sign. So Venus in your sign is nice. It's along your ascendant. It's bringing more attention to you, more love to you, more self-love. It's in a square with Mars in your 10th house. You might have some flirty people at work. You might have some people that are really kind of pursuing you. Maybe they're kind of passionate about you. Maybe they're noticing you. Maybe you're flirting back. I don't have a problem with it. It's going to be more active though for the mutable signs. So, you know, Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces, because these squares are happening in angular houses. So it's going to be more visible. So this is like, you know, maybe you're just noticing that you're being more assertive out in the world, and you're really taking better care of yourself, and people notice that, and they're really paying attention to you, and they can be treating you with more respect with Venus in your sign. So there's a way for you to get the job done without feeling like you're being too demanding, if that makes sense. Then on the 19th of the month, we're going to be seeing Venus in your sign as well, in a trine to the North Node. So you're really practicing what you preach. You're practicing love. Maybe you're really excited about the possibility for traveling, learning something new. Your philosophies and your beliefs about life are changing. Maybe, you know, you're adding a little bit more love into your interaction with the world, and it's helping you kind of navigate these frustrating times more. Venus will also come into a trine with Uranus, and there's some change and transformation that's happening. Maybe it's physical and it's visible in your body because you've made changes to your fitness routine or changes to your diet with that transformation. People can be saying like, what did you do? You know, how did you bulk up, or how did you lose the weight, or how did you do your hair? Like, teach me. They might want to know how you've like perfected something in some way. Then on the 22nd, we're going to have a Sun-Mercury cazimi. It'll be in your 2nd house in the sign of Libra. So Mercury is retrograding back. It's going to come back into your sign. You're starting to realize what you value, right? Now, the 10th house, the Sun rules your 12th house. So likely this is also possibly about like Not allowing relationship or romantic disappointments to affect your self-esteem. Also bad habits. If you've had bad habits in terms of what you're eating, or, you know, lusty habits, sexual habits, things like that, you're going to like realize like, I can't keep obsessing about this and fixating on this. This isn't good for me. That can definitely come up. There can also be just like an epiphany about your financial situation, some kind of news that you get in regards to your financial situation out of the blue. Then on the 24th, we are going to see oppositions between Venus and Neptune. So Venus in your first house and opposition to Neptune. Man, Venus in your first, you're feeling yourself, you're looking good. It's been in a trine to Uranus, so there's been some changes and transformations. It's also coming into a trine with Pluto, so you're going to be feeling really passionate, but you're like, where is the other person? You might be really feeling like relationship lack if you're single. It might be like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm doing all this work. Like, where is someone? There can also be a sense of like really showing up and doing the work and not feeling like partners are acknowledging you or noticing you. Be careful. You can be overly idealizing another person and putting them on a pedestal and like, you know, setting yourself kind of back a little bit by wanting to really believe that like they're all of that, right? So just be mindful of that as well. On the flip side, these oppositions can be somebody who's like, who comes in and they're kind of, it's hard to read them and they can be a little quiet and a little passive, and you're like, okay, I can't tell if they like me. That can happen that way as well. Then on the 25th, Venus then trines Pluto. And there is an opportunity to communicate very passionately and say what's on your heart and say what's on your mind. You know, you might fall in love with something or someone, and you might feel the need to say something and like really show that to another person. And it can also be about making investments for pleasure, you know, buying something that is going to allow you to express yourself, like an instrument or stuff for an art project. On the 26th of the month, Venus also will come into a conjunction with Mercury retrograde. So Mercury will drop back down into your first house. Venus will be there. You know, I'm not getting the feeling you're going to like go back to an old hobby. You might go back to an old lover. You might go back to an old practice, or, you know, just something that you love doing creatively. And you're like, why did I ever stop doing this? I love this. Or why did I stop talking to this person? Like, they're really fun. It's also a time to reevaluate the body. So you can be reevaluating like your pleasure and whether or not you're feeling confident with your body and being intimate with other people. For Virgo risings, this can also be a time where you could find out you're pregnant because Mercury is going retrograde in your sign and it's going to trine Pluto, or you might realize that you really do want to have children and you have to kind of address things in regards to your body to see if you're good to go in that department. Same day, the sun in Libra will be in your second house of money and resources in an opposition to Jupiter in your 8th. So likely you are realizing your desires and your passion and what you've been really manifesting and hoping for in regards to money or in regards to partnership, and you get some kind of good news. Now that might also be the time where families like, look, if you're between jobs or if you need help or whatever, I can help you. Or a loan goes through or something kind of falls out of the sky. On the 27th of the month, then we have Mercury back in the sign of Virgo, finally in that trine with Pluto. And this will be the third time that it's happened. Speaking passionately, returning back to something you love, really feeling yourself, getting in touch with your inner child, healing your body and any issues that you have with insecurities, especially in your love life. And we also have Mars, which will still be in Gemini, and it's in a trine to Saturn. So you've worked out some of the kinks at work with your schedule. Maybe you've adapted to a new job if you've changed jobs. Maybe you're feeling like you're just getting a ton of work done. There's new systems in place, maybe new softwares. You're communicating well, and everything is kind of finally coming into formation. Thankfully, at the end of September, going into early October, you're going to see some of the bumps that have been happening either at work or with coworkers or with your health kind of smooth off a little bit, but it requires you to really communicate effectively with people, okay? So keep that in mind. Let's take a look and see what your cards have to say for the month ahead, Virgo. The Emperor. Very interesting. I think this is all about the oppositions to Jupiter and Aries. I mean, you know, because this is the card that deals with Aries. It's also the card that deals with Mars. So lots of good opportunities for reestablishing your resources, getting support from others, having more spending power, better self-esteem. But also Mars in a trine to Saturn, which will come in later in the month, is saying like you're finally feeling like people are listening and you're speaking up and you're seeing more headway at work, managing work things. If you are a boss, you're going to handle it like a boss. If you're thinking about starting a business, might be a time that this ends up happening. If you're just hoping to get the job done or just show up and be more assertive in the world, I think that that's a thing. This can also be about father figures and male superiors at work, so keep an eye on that. But for the most part, the Emperor is about kind of guiding and guiding others, you know, being able to show up as an authority figure out in the world and being respected and doing the job well and being able to execute your goals appropriately. So it looks good for you, Virgo. Good luck and happy birthday. Hey Libra, Libra rising, hope you're doing well. Welcome to your September 2022 monthly overview, your horoscope. Let's take a look at what you've got going on this month. Let me get my handy dandy pen here. Still trying to get the hang of it, sorry guys. Okay, so let's put this over here. Okay, great. So the month kicks off with a Mercury. Oh, that's fun. Let's get rid of that. Sorry, guys. With a Mercury in your sign opposition to Jupiter. So Mercury is going to be going retrograde throughout the month in your sign. This is bringing up themes in regards to your communication and your body. But before it goes retrograde, which won't be for a couple days still past this date, Mercury will be direct in opposition to Jupiter. So this is about you sharing your ideas, your intellect, your information, your communication with others, 7th house. Now, Mercury rules your 12th, along with your natal 9th house. So this tells me like you're retreating a little bit more. Maybe you're dealing with some anxiety. Maybe you're feeling the need to rest and recuperate. That's really the theme for the whole retrograde. And maybe you're communicating that and explaining that to your partners, your clients, and to your one-on-one relationships. Maybe you're taking a break. Maybe you need time off. Maybe you're going on a retreat. So likely you're sharing information with other people that's like, hey, I'm not going to be as available. You're also in a position to get really good feedback. The one thing that I would say is with Mercury in your sign in the opposition to Jupiter can bring about conflicts of belief systems, and it can also bring about legal issues or legal challenges, reevaluating commitments that you've made to other people. Then on the 3rd of the month, we're going to see Mars going into shadow. So once Mars hits 8 degrees, it's in shadow. Mars will spend about 7 months in the sign of Gemini. It won't turn retrograde though until the end of October. So you've got some time. Now, there's going to be lots of action in this area of your life the next few months. It's going to bring opportunities for teaching, for education, going back to school, completing programs. If you're wanting to write a book, if you're wanting to publish something, if you're wanting to travel, if you're wanting to plan a trip, this is a wonderful time for planning. We can travel and do all of those things prior, but I would say like whether you want to really go and do a lot of research, or maybe you're talking to a partner about what you're hoping to achieve out of life. Maybe you're going to be teaching other people. It really depends on your personal chart, but you're going to start to see the effects possibly of the shadow early. Now, Mars rules your 7th house of relationships, so it's going to be about where you're traveling with other people, where you're teaching other people, returning back to a place that you have visited before. So just know there's going to be a lot more action in this part of your chart, and you might start seeing the effects of the shadow period. Then on the 9th, Mercury will go retrograde. So that's when the retrograde starts. So if you need to move, if you need to make changes in your body, your physical appearance especially, try to either hold off and wait and do this closer to mid-October, or get it out of the way before the 9th, okay? I feel for Libra rising, I'm a Libra rising myself, a lot of this is just about reworking your image. It's about reworking what you think, how you communicate, what you believe in, because Mercury rules your 9th house. Maybe you need more time for rest. I think a lot of you guys do, and you're needing to communicate with other people and let other people know. You can't always be available. I mean, part of the Mercury retrograde Libra in itself is like, where do we extend ourselves for other people, and where do we rebalance and find time for ourselves? And if we're overextending ourselves for others, we need to find that balance, and you might be needing to kind of like let some people know, send me an email. I'll get back to you when I can. That kind of stuff, because you might be really overwhelmed with just life right now and feeling like there's just like a lot of people that are kind of coming at you. This can be a time also for healing, because Mercury going into the 12th house, Virgo, is associated with healing. So healing something. So therapists, hypnotherapists, going and talking to a spiritual healer, going to a retreat center, spas, things like that are really helpful. Then on the 16th of the month, you have Venus in Gemini, Venus in Mars, or in a square. So we've got Venus in Virgo right here, in a square with Mars in Aries. So you are Venus. So when transits are happening involving Venus, it's really important. And Mars rules others. So likely you're wanting to rest and retreat, and you have got either a partner, a counselor, maybe you've got a romantic partner, a business partner that's like, okay, but what about travel? But what about completing a program? But what about publishing a book? You've got somebody who's really pushing you to do more, and you're like, I just want to check out. I need some time off. I need some retreat. Can cause a little friction. Mars-Venus squares, though, can also produce lots of opportunity for chemistry and like sexual tension, and it can be fun. So if you're opting to use the transits in your 12th house to like get away and go on a trip, it can be wonderful because you can do this with another person, and it can really highlight your ability to go deeper in a relationship and take a little bit of time off. Then on the 19th of the month, we have Venus in Virgo trine Uranus and also the North Node. First, it's going to trine the North Node. So we've got Venus in your 12th house trining the North Node. I think Venus in the 12th house is like bed pleasures. There can be more opportunities for intimacy, exploring your sexuality with other people with trines to the North Node. There can also be some like secret admirers, some behind the scenes romance, some people that might be interested in you as well, some things that are not entirely clear in regards to relationships. But with Venus in the 12th, which deals with healing and also sacrifice and rest and recuperation, with a trine to Uranus, it almost feels like getting back into the swing of really focusing on your intimacy, your love life, and like letting the past go seems to be like the way forward. Then you're shortly after that going to see Venus trine Uranus, and that makes me feel like there can definitely be things going on behind the scenes that involve children, creative projects, romance, like having time away. So if you need to take a little bit of a step back, you can work on creative projects. You can also focus on relationships. And there can be relationships with people who are just different, unusual in some way because of the trines to Uranus. Then on the 22nd of the month, we are going to have a Sun-Mercury cazimi. So we're going to have the Sun come into your sign. We're going to have Mercury retrograde back, and it will conjunct the Sun. Likely this is going to be an important day for personal epiphanies. Keep a notebook around. You might have a really prominent dream. You might have something that just comes to you like an idea. You start writing it, putting it together. It can also be a day where you want to reveal an important secret. I've said in previous videos that Libra risings can be like feeling that they need to like get something off their chest, or that they need to like express something, especially if you've been dealing with anxiety. Or if you've been like holding back on having a conversation with someone, this might be the day where you get some insight as to how to navigate that. It can also be a day where there's health results, things going on with your body, information about your body that's coming about because it is in the first house. Then on the 24th of the month, we're going to see that Venus moves to make an opposition with Neptune. So Venus will still be in Virgo. It is yet to go into your sign. This is, in a way, I think also bringing up stuff in relation to, where you need to rest and take a load off, where you don't need to be doing all the laundry, cleaning up the house. You may not even feel like going to work. You might want to be, sleeping in, resting, recuperating. You need more rest, Libra, with this retrograde that's taking place in your sign. So you might be feeling like you need some support or somebody to help you kind of get odd jobs and other things done around the house. This can also be a day, because Venus rules your body, where there's some kind of information that's revealed about your health. And remember that the mental body, Virgo, does affect the physical body and also the spiritual body, Pisces. So if you are dealing with lots of stress, if you need more rest and recuperation, you need to take it. This is going to be one of the months where there's going to be a little bit more downtime before we get into October, where there's eclipses. Then on the 25th of the month, we're going to have Venus still in Virgo in your 12th house, forming a trine to Pluto in Capricorn. And this makes me feel like it's either you, or it can be a female relative or a family member. There can be some change, some transformation, burying the hatchet with a family problem, a female going and getting rest or recuperation in a hospital setting or space. It could also be you. This creates a profound change and transformation in regards to the home and also the resources. We've also seen Venus that's been in trines to the North Node and Uranus. So some Libra risings are having to really take a look at their joint resources, or dealing with tax issues, partnership finance issues, and anything in regards to inheritances can be coming up through some of these trines here as well. But when Venus trines Pluto, there's something like healing and cathartic, like you let something go. And, you guys are coming into your birthday season. So to those of you guys who are, September Libras, happy birthday. This is the time where you're wrapping everything up at the end of the year before you start something new. Now, at the end of September, you will have a new moon that's going to be in your sign. So you might feel like all month long you're just resting, retreating, cleaning up, really focusing on preparing for the new year that's ahead. Then on the 26th of the month, we are going to see that Mercury retrograde will be conjunct Venus in the sign of Virgo in your 12th house. And I think the moon will be there too, if I remember correctly. So that tells me that there can be something that is unveiled in regards to an old relationship that needs to be put to rest. It can be like a work situation that comes about that needs to be kind of cleared up because the moon rules your 10th house. This can also be where you finally let go and you heal from old relationship issues, and you're changing and transforming some of that stuff. A woman from the past can come back in some way and help you heal something. Great time to also be connecting with healers or therapists as well. It's really positive for you this month, Libra. Now, on the same day, the sun in Libra, which will be in your first house, will make an opposition to Jupiter in your 7th. So likely there is an opportunity for you to give somebody feedback, give some insight to someone, receive some feedback. It's positive. Sun opposed Jupiter is anything's possible. We can work this out. It'll be fine. And you're getting lots of support from others, support from business partners, support from romantic partners, from marital partners. Sun on your ascendant is going to have you feeling like you're getting your energy and you're getting your groove back. And I think with the opposition to Jupiter, which is the ruler of the 3rd, is really highlighting the need to communicate. If you're feeling off, if you're not feeling well, if you're feeling depressed, or if you're feeling isolated, there's a need to tell other people hey, this is where I'm at, this is how I'm feeling. So you can give people the opportunity to open up lines of communication and be there and support you. You and Aries are really feeling this pretty strongly in terms of what do I give to other people versus what I keep for myself. Aries are learning how to show up in relationships a lot more, and they're hearing from partners what they need to do. It's the opposite for you. You've got Mercury retrograde on your ascendant. If you're not feeling well, if you're feeling a little down, there's a need to communicate and tell partners what's going on, so that way they can jump in and they can help you kind of remedy the situation. Then on the 27th of the month, we see Mercury retrograde in the sign of Virgo, so it'll be back in your 12th house. Really prominent dreams can be coming in during this time, Libra, so pay attention to your dreams. They can be very symbolic. It will trine Pluto in your 4th house. So that tells me that maybe there's healing of trauma, maybe there's a breakthrough in a therapy session, possibly there's a new belief system or a shift. The 12th house can deal with your spirit guide team and your connection to the other side, and Mercury deals with your connection to God. So I feel like prayer, meditation, rest, reflection are all going to be helpful, and it can help you get to the bottom of what you're trying to uncover that's been creating some problems emotionally for you for some time, either within your home or within your family. Yes, seeing trines from the 12th to the 8th to the 4th, that's a grand earth trine. There can be physical, financial, home changes and transitions in the family, and people who go through health crisis, and it can bring up some hectic things for you for sure. Same day, on the 27th, we have Mars in Gemini in your 9th house, which is really active in regards to travel, philosophy, education, learning. It's in a trine to Saturn. And that tells me that you're making either an investment, or you're planning, or you're looking at things financially. When it comes to like setting up maybe like a trip, it's possible that you're also like investing a little bit of money based off something you learned on something speculative in the market. You may be interested in like learning a language, so that way you can go on a vacation and you can communicate with people better. It can play out a number of different ways, but Saturn is stable, right? And Saturn's in your 5th house of romance, creativity, and children. And Mars is in the 3rd house. So, the 3rd house from the 7th, and it's the ruler of the 7th. So you've got partners that are saying to you, it's possible, you know, how can I help you? Or yes, let's plan it. Or, you know, where do you want to go? What do you want to learn? So communicate. When in doubt, communicate. That's the best advice that I can give you for the month ahead. It's going to probably be the most challenging for you, Libra, so just hang in there. Know that there is like a change going on with how you communicate, your identity. You can be dealing with feelings of insecurity as well, especially in regards to how people perceive you, or maybe even your appearance. And I would say just don't sweat it. Keep going back to meditation, prayer, taking time so you can kind of work through some of this stuff. The card that I get is the 6 of Wands. Being well received. This is a homecoming card, so it can be talking about returning back to situations, places, returning back to places you've been, you being well received. So even though there can be some insecurities with how you communicate or how people perceive you, people are going to be cheering you on. You're going to have people who are supporting you. You're going to be victorious in the things that you're doing. So if you have goals for wanting to change things, if you have goals for wanting to get more in touch with your higher self, wanting to feel better in your own skin, whatever it is, it looks like you're going to be successful and you're going to have the support of others in the process. Okay? Good luck, Libra. All right, so let's move this now to Scorpio and Scorpio rising. Hi, Scorpio. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to September 2022. Boy, oh boy. I think the fixed signs, you know, and I didn't say this for Taurus and Leo, but I'll say this now. You kind of get a break this month. We're still in a retrograde. There's some oppositions, but we don't have as many fixed squares, so you get a little bit of a reprieve, at least until we get to October next month. All right, so the month kicks off for you, Scorpio, with Mercury going retrograde. Actually, no, not right off the bat. That's not going to be until the 9th, but you've got Mercury in Libra. So at this moment on the 2nd, it's direct. It's making an opposition to Jupiter in your 6th. So Jupiter rules your money and your self-esteem and your security. Jupiter's in your 6th house. It looks like you're really focusing on working hard. You might be focusing on working out, kind of getting a routine, getting your health in check. Mercury rules your 11th house, which is goals. It also rules your 8th house of transformation. So to me, it looks like with Mercury in opposition to Jupiter, you're realizing that part of getting your physical goals, you know, in alignment is also like your mental state, what you're taking, you know, how you're taking time to retreat, to rest, to recuperate. Mercury opposed Jupiter can produce good news. And I think with Mercury in your 12th, you're kind of looking at like which friendships are suiting you, which ones are good for you, and which ones you want to let go of. Throughout this Mercury retrograde, you may hear from friends from the past. They may come back around. You might have a dream or a hunch that you're going to hear from them, and then you do, because it'll go from your 12th, which is very psychic, into your 11th, which is where you connect with your friends. Look for intuitive insight that comes this day about addictions, about your health, about how you can rework something, and you might just be feeling like a little bit in your head, or that you need some private time during these transits. Then on the 3rd, we see that Mars enters into shadow. So Mars is going to spend about 7 months in Gemini. It's going to be there until the new year. Mars is your chart ruler because you're ruled by Mars. So you may start feeling the effects of the shadow now. Mars in the 8th house, very passionate, very intense. It's also psychological, and it's about communication in the sign of Gemini and how you change and transform the way that you connect with other people or how you communicate with people. This is also a house about joint resources. To me, it seems like there's going to be a lot of action here in the areas of talking to a partner about joint resources, paying things off, applying for loans, trying to find more power when it comes to merging with other people. Does it mean something's going to happen when it comes into the retrograde shadow? No, I'm just letting you know that, you know, you are going to possibly start to see some stuff, especially as we're getting, you know, through Virgo season. Planets will square. And then we'll see Mars in your 8th house come into a square with Neptune. So there's questions about like joint resources and creative projects, you know, sexually connecting with people and if there's really love there, intimacy stuff, anything in regards to also joint resources and children, taxes. So there's friction between these two topics basically later this year in your life. So just keep an eye out for that. Finally, on the 9th, then we have Mercury going retrograde in Libra. It'll turn retrograde in your 12th house of the hidden sector. It can be about dreams. It can be about things that are hidden. It can be about secret conversations also. Like you could be talking back and forth with somebody and talking or hearing from somebody out of the blue from the past. Remember that Libra is other people, and the 12th house is where we wrap things up. So if you're having dreams about past partners, if you hear from a past partner, things like that, it's not unusual. Mercury retrograde in the 12th also can disrupt your sleep schedule, so I would say keep a lookout for that as well. Mercury in your chart rules the 8th house of other people's resources, sex, death, and intimacy. It also rules your 11th house of goals and friendships. So you want to watch out for like hearing from people who are like, oh, you know, we're friends, but there can be some ulterior motives there. Other people's intentions are not entirely clear while Mercury is going retrograde. You might feel like some people are kind of keeping you in the dark, or they're not really sharing everything with you, and you're like, what's really going on? Then on the 16th, we are going to see Venus in Virgo in your 11th house of friendships, squaring with Mars in your 8th house. Once again, bringing up the topic of, you know, friendships and who you really have when you're going through change or crisis, like who's on your side, who's in your corner. The 11th house also deals with the love that you get from other people. So I could see like you getting a lot of affection or appreciation or people reaching out to you. But if you're a Scorpio rising in a relationship, it can definitely create some tension. I would say watch out for that because you've got eclipses coming in 2 months' time. It's going to be in your 7th house. You're going to have a full moon lunar eclipse there that will square Saturn. The return of the Saturn Uranus square. So those of you guys who are not totally fulfilled in relationships, or you're in situations with people that it's not really defined, defining the difference between a friendship and also a sexual relationship is important. And if you are committed, watch out because there can be some problems. Believe it or not, the 11th house also deals with others' lovers. So if you're in a relationship, you can be finding that you're in a relationship with somebody who's hearing from people from the past, or they're still hung up on things from the past, and part of the Mercury retrograde may be discussing that and talking about that as to why they're having issues with the current relationship now or commitment. Then on the 19th, we're going to see Venus in Virgo is going to come into a trine with first the North Node in your 7th. Once again, people showing up, coming into your life out of the blue. It could be somebody you meet at a party. It could be somebody that you're introduced to. It could be a friend of a friend. Then we've got Venus that's coming into a trine with Uranus. So it can disrupt things a little bit. Like if you're a Scorpio rising or a Scorpio in a relationship, you know, like I could see this as like a friend request from an old partner or what have you, or a friend that wants to be more than friends, and that's disrupting an existing relationship. So you really want to be mindful of that. And like I said, just defining the difference between a relationship and a friendship. Then on the, let's see, what am I missing here? Then on the 22nd, we're going to have a Mercury retrograde conjunct the sun. So we're going to have the sun go into your 12th house of Libra. Mercury is going to conjunct the sun. That, once again, bringing up the theme of like, oh, who's reaching out from the past, or what needs to be cleared out, or what came to you in a dream to make you aware of your goals. There is likely going to be people who are reaching out to you privately in some way, and there can be a lot of private back and forth about stuff. And anything in relation also to just, I think, going deeper in relationships and being able to be more vulnerable and talking to people about stuff that might be more scary for you as well. Venus then comes into a, let's see, we've got Sun in opposition. So yeah, so while the Sun and Mercury are coming together, which I think will be an insightful kind of epiphany, a dream or insight you get from someone, it'll make an opposition to Jupiter. So it's meant to kind of make you feel more stable or secure financially or physically. Then we've got Venus in Virgo coming into an opposition with Pisces at 23 degrees. So Venus in the 11th house of friends, schools, and association parties get together. Social networks will oppose Neptune in the 5th. So it'll be things like, are they interested in me? I can't tell. I can't read the situation. You know, Venus rules your relationship. So if you're in a partnership, it could also be that, you know, your partner is saying things to you about how they feel in regards to children. So there can be conversations coming up about children, having children, the children you have, whether or not they're still in love, that kind of stuff. Then on the 25th, Venus in Virgo then moves to trine Pluto in the 3rd house. Now this is interesting because you are Pluto, other people are Venus. And this tells me like friends, networks, somebody can be talking to you about their goals, getting really serious about their goals, having really significant, deep, heart-to-heart conversations with you. Really pay attention to these conversations that are coming up on the 25th because they're very important. Then on the 26th of the month, Venus in Virgo comes into a conjunction with Mercury. So Mercury will have retrograded back into the 11th house. So that conjunction makes me feel like, once again, partnerships from the past returning and talking to you. Like, you might see this on social media platforms. You might hear this from other friends. It can also be friends that are reaching out being like, where have you been? What's going on? What's new with you? And like, you're sharing with them what's going on in your life now. And you're able to kind of reconnect and kind of share with them what you've been doing. Then we've got that same day when that is taking place, the sun will make an opposition. Well, technically the sun will be in Libra, to Jupiter. And to me, it's giving you some kind of insight about what you need to be working on behind the scenes to improve and expand your day-to-day routine and also your work and be able to get more work done and to either receive or give support to other people. Then on the 27th of the month, we're going to be seeing that Mercury will trine. So you're going to have Mercury still in Virgo coming into a trine with Pluto. Still intense conversations, important conversations. Now Mercury is more about your goals, right? The 11th house can also deal with, once again, like the love that, you know, people give you. So if you're kind of going back and forth with somebody, like, how are you feeling? Like, why are you being this way? Like, what's the problem? Like, they might give you more insight and kind of talk to you about like what's on their mind and what they've been thinking about. So that way you can realize it may not necessarily be you. They may be going through some changes. Mars going through the 2nd house of the 8th house, which is 2nd tier 7th, means you can be dealing with partners that are having insecurity or even financial issues. Last but not least, on the 27th, we are also going to be seeing that Mars in Gemini in your 8th will be coming into trines with Saturn. Now, Mars rules your chart. A trine is a free-flowing energy, so it is going to be harmonious, but this is the element of air. So it's communicating with other people how they feel about changes sexually in terms of intimacy, with money, taxes, and how that actually affects the home, right? So if you and your partner are going back and forth talking about, well, you know, this isn't working out, it's like, okay, well, we need to actually talk about, you know, how we're going to handle this mortgage or how we're going to handle a financial situation if there's going to be something changing in regards to our joint resources. Mars can cut. So there can be a sense of cutting back or cutting off. And this can be cutting off from responsibility financially for a home. This can be, you know, cutting costs. This can be, you know, getting payments also. I mean, Mars will go through your 8th house for a while. So some Scorpio risings are going to be dealing with taxes, inheritance, spousal or you know, child support. That could be something else, especially watching Mars come into a square with Neptune. Some of you guys are going to be talking about, you know, costs in relation to home and family and whether or not you guys separate or if you guys build stronger together, okay? But for the most part, Mars in a trine to Saturn makes me feel like you're finding a way to pay off maybe an existing home or handle an existing financial situation so you can actually change and transform where it is you're living or get to the core issue of a home problem, especially if it's like affecting somebody due to like health issues or financial issues. All right, so let's take a look at what the cards have to say for you, Scorpio. Two of Cups. Well, this is great. Anything's possible with another person. And it's interesting, especially for Scorpio risings, it's like you guys who are in relationships are going to find out what relationships are really made of. And through some turbulent times, you can actually find that it can really reinforce the strength and the importance of the people who are in your life. But this is a card that is really talking about meeting significant people, connecting to significant people, people reaching out saying, are you interested? Can I join you? Right? I mean, it's hard not to with all the trines to Uranus and the North Node. And also, I think Mercury going retrograde in the 12th. If you're thinking about somebody, reconnecting with someone, or somebody's thinking about doing that with you, it would not surprise me. It looks like people are going to be wanting to join with you. Just like I said, the one piece of advice I would give you is with the Mercury retrograde in your 12th, keep in mind if you are in relationships and if this is something that's doing, it can cause quite a bit of trouble down the road. So just be mindful of that. Okay. All right. So let's now move to Sag and Sag rising. Hey Sag, how's it going? This is your September 2022 horoscopes. Let's take a look. So the month is going to kick off with a Mercury-Jupiter opposition. Well, Jupiter rules your chart. So it rules your body, and it also rules your 5th house of pleasure, romance, children, vacations, travel, that kind of stuff. You've got Mercury, which rules career, in opposition to Jupiter. So I'm wondering if you're anticipating going and traveling with a friend and going on a fun trip. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting, and that maybe you're taking a little bit of time off from work to focus more on going and having more fun or more pleasure projects and things like that. Mercury won't be retrograde at this point yet, but it will go retrograde from your 11th house of friends and goals back into your house of work. It looks like if you do go on a trip, adapting and coming back to work can be a little wonky. On the 3rd of the month, Mars goes into shadow. So Mars is going to spend 7 months in your 7th house of relationships in the sign of Gemini. You're going to bring in passionate individuals. There's going to be opportunity for adventure, fun, people who come into your life that challenge you, right, in good and bad ways. This tells me that relationships are going to be important. You know, Mars rules your 5th house of children and romance, so you might find that you're dating 2 people. You might find that you're dating with intention to meet somebody, to have a kid. In a relationship, you might start talking about marriage, true love, or children. You might be focused on like going and learning things with a partner and just being more active together in some capacity. Now, because it's going into shadow, you may start to see the effects of it a little bit. Mars rules your 12th house, which can be about traveling to foreign places. It can also be about just bedtime, more opportunities for movie night and sex and pleasure. So I feel like it can be great for getting away and having a good time and having private time with people, but equally, it can also bring up any trauma or fear or insecurities that stem from childhood, which inhibit your ability to show up in relationships, and it can bring some really heated exchanges with other people if they don't really know what's going on, if you're dealing with any of that. So just know you might start to feel a little bit of the effects of that soon. On the 9th, Mercury turns retrograde, and it'll go retrograde from Libra into your 10th house of career, Virgo. And that's why I think there can be some mix-ups at work, issues with scheduling, problems with bosses, understaffed, people showing up late, that kind of stuff, which can be frustrating. This is a more challenging Mercury retrograde for you because it's going to square your placements in Sag. It's also going to come into squares with your 7th house of relationships, and you can be feeling like, oh my gosh, your relationships with people in the workplace, or because you're so busy at work, it's harder for you to show up in partner. It's going to feel a little disorienting, and I just want you to have a heads up. Now, the good thing is that Mercury rules the 10th house and also rules the 7th, so it's like it's about reorganizing your professional life, how you communicate with people. If you're in the business of service, you might have some issues with clients being late, people not showing up, you having some squabbles with others. If you work with a romantic partner, I think that can be interesting as well. It can be a great way to diffuse that situation, so you can be talking about business, not so much about relationships all the time. Your status might change in a way, so maybe you go from being single to being in a public relationship. Maybe you go from being married to now being single. Maybe you go from being an employee to being your own boss. Whatever it is, there's something radically different that's changing in regards to your professional life, and it's going to take about a month to kind of settle it all out and smooth it out. But when it is smoothed out, I think it will go very well. Now, on the 16th, we have Venus that is in your 10th house of career in a square with Mars. Venus rules your routine, and it rules your friends, and Mars rules what you don't see, and also anything in regards to your dating and your career life. I'm wondering if, like, once again, there is a little bit of friction and some tension. Maybe you've got a partner that's kind of jealous that you're working all the time, or that you've got an office boyfriend, or you know what I'm saying? Like somebody who's just kind of like, what's going on there? Like, why are you spending so much time at work? They might get a little feisty about this. It's going to enact a T-square here with planets that you have in Sag. And you're going to realize that life isn't all about work all the time. And it's not also all about being alone, that there are new people coming into your life who you're either in a relationship with or who need your attention. And you're learning how to adjust the way that you are out in the world, and that you need to create equal time for you, your home, your relationships, and your career. So now we got to rework something in your career with that retrograde. On the 19th of the month, we're going to see trines that are going on. And this is going to be, oh, you know what, one other thing. The sun in Virgo on the 19th, on the 16th, the sun in Virgo will come into an opposition with Neptune, okay? Sun is about travel, and it's about what your beliefs are. Neptune is about home and family. I'm just wondering if you're like traveling and there's some wonkiness at work, or you're at work but you've got some crisis going on at home and like you need some support. That's going to be quite a disorienting day on the 16th. Just watch for the conflict. I guess the positive side is that Venus will be in a trine with the North Node and also with Uranus around then. So if you need to hire somebody, if you need to find a doctor, if you need to hire a new staff member or something like that, like somebody can show up and help you. Okay. The 22nd. The 22nd of the month, we've got a Sun-Mercury Cazimi happening here. So the Sun in the 11th house, conjunct Mercury, is telling me that there is like possibly like an important epiphany, a belief system that's changing, a significant thing in regards to going and being somewhere with a friend. Maybe you're traveling with a friend, but something pops up where you're like, wait, something's going on at work, or you know, so-and-so didn't show up, or I told them to cover my shift, or, you know, somebody's calling me asking me where this file is, and like I'm, you know, on a plane or I'm at an airport, which can be really agitating. So just be mindful of that on the 22nd. Mercury is also the ruler of the 7th, so maybe you're sharing a lot of information about a relationship or somebody that you met with a friend and they're giving you insight. Same day, the Sun enters into Libra. On the 24th of the month, Venus in Virgo, which is in your 10th house, moves to oppose Neptune. Venus rules health, routine. It also, for you, rules friends, and it's in opposition to Neptune. So you're like, I am so swamped at work. I didn't get a chance to eat lunch. I don't know how I'm staying with my gym schedule. I feel totally whacked. I'm off. And it can have you feeling a little drained and a little overwhelmed, especially like if you're in like the kind of business that's really busy during the holidays. Like if you get busy the fall through the new year, this is kind of showing you that you really need to prioritize your health and also your routine, so that way you're not totally falling off and feeling under the weather. You could feel very overwhelmed with work responsibilities or career responsibilities or parenting responsibilities and things that are going on at home. On the 25th of the month, Venus is still in Virgo, coming into a trine with Pluto, and you're like, oh my goodness, all the hard work is paying off. I've been really busting my butt, putting in lots of extra hours, doing as much as I can, and it's physically paying off for me. I'm starting to see it kind of come full circle, and I'm getting a bonus, or I'm bringing in more money or more clients, and you're getting like recommendations from people, and you're getting glowing reviews, and like you're kind of really getting a pat on the back for everything that you've managed to accomplish in the month of September. Then we've got on the 26th, Venus will retrograde, I've said this twice, Mercury will retrograde in the sign of Virgo. It will come into conjunction with Venus in Virgo. So you've got Mercury, which rules information, communication in regards to work, retrograding conjunct Venus. Are you going back to work with a friend? Are you bringing a friend into the office? Are you working with a friend again? Are you reconnecting with a friend or a social network to help you expand professionally? Probably any one of these things are happening. If you have a friend that's in need of a job and you can hook them up, you might You may also find that you're just really enjoying getting the gang together and seeing everything kind of come together beautifully in the professional space. Let's see. So then on the same day, we're going to have the sun in Libra. So the sun will be in your 11th house in opposition to Jupiter. So celebrating going to a party, bringing a romantic partner, a loved one, sharing some kind of good news with a romantic partner, or maybe going to a kid's birthday party or a wedding or something like that, or something like really amazing and exciting and romantic where you can fuse your love life and your friendships as well around that time. Then on the 27th of September, we have Mercury retrograde still in Virgo. So it's still in your 10th house of career, reworking something in regards to your professional life. And it is in a trine to Pluto. This is important because there's really like crunching numbers, looking at the bottom line, you know, how you've performed at the end of the month, whether or not things are paying off. And just able to really get down to the details of like, okay, you know, have we made it? Was it worth it? Are we hitting the numbers that we were hoping to hit? Did we stick to budget? And also on the 27th, Mars, still in Gemini, it's going to be there for a while, coming into a trine with Saturn in your 3rd house. So likely client relationships are good. There's lots of communicating with a partner. Maybe you and a partner are talking about investing money together. Maybe you're talking about starting some kind of business online together or locally, talking about taking a trip or planning a trip or putting the money together to plan a trip and go somewhere. Relationships also with neighbors, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins can also be good. Lots of conversations with some of these people. You might be talking to them more about trips and traveling and visiting. You may also just get some phone calls from people who are like, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z, because Mars in the 12th, excuse me, Mars rules the 12th. It's in the 6th. In the 7th, hello, can you tell that Saturn is square my Mercury? Mars is in Gemini in your 7th house. It rules your 12th, and it's in a trine to Saturn in the 3rd. So people are reaching out, calling you, talking to you, probably saying like, this is what I'm dealing with, and that's what I'm dealing with, and like they're trying to get feedback. So it's important to remember this month, Sag, like not my circus, not my monkeys. That's something that you probably want to just keep reminding yourself as you go through some of these mutable squares over the next couple of weeks, that your main focus is, you know, am I showing up for my relationships? Am I communicating what I can and I cannot do? And am I hitting the bottom line when it comes to my work and my career stuff? This will be a little bit of like a jumbled month for you. So just take it easy. Don't make any big rush decisions also when it comes to your career stuff. Quitting jobs, changing jobs, things like that. Remember, when Mercury goes retrograde, we change our mind. We review some things. So think everything through before you make any big changes there, okay? All right, so let's see what the cards have to say for you for the month ahead. The Hanged Man. How appropriate. I was like thinking to myself, I was like, I could see some Sagittarius just being like, I quit, that's it, I'm done. And I think that can be throwing in the towel in relationships as well. You want to take a step back and gain perspective. And this is such a perfect card for that, because it's saying like, you know, sleep on it, think about it, you know, take a walk, meditate on it. You don't need to rush in or out of anything. And it's important for you to spend this month observing what is and is not working. Know that the longer that we get into September and really into the beginning of October, a lot of professional and relationship stuff does work out, but it's a matter of allowing the pieces to kind of come together and not feeling like you need to force it. Okay? Good luck. All right, so let's now move to Capricorn and Capricorn rising. What's up, Capricorn? I hope you're doing well. Okay, so this is going to be the September 2022 horoscopes for you. So the month kicks off with a Sun-Mercury, with a Jupiter-Mercury opposition. So we've got Mercury in your 10th house of career. It's in shadow. It will go retrograde soon. Mercury rules your beliefs. It also rules travel. Mercury also rules your health and your routine. So with Mercury in opposition to Jupiter, perhaps there's like a sense of you being like, okay, you know, is there something that I don't see coming at work? Are we having a change in the schedule? Are they laying people off? Are we making a shift or a change in our office space? Something like that can be coming up. Also, Mercury deals with legal and law stuff, anything in regards to like processing visas, waiting for documents, things like that, lawsuits. So if there's some conflict going on lawsuit-wise over home and property or anything in regards to work, this can pop up as well. Generally, though, Mercury in opposition to Jupiter can bring some good news, and it's going to probably be letting you know, like, yes, you can travel, yes, you'll be able to relocate, you know, yes, you can get time off if you need to move, that kind of stuff. And there also is probably a need to communicate with family about some of the changes that might be coming in your work space. Then on the 3rd of the month, we have Mars entering into shadow in Gemini. So Mars is in your 6th house of health and wellness. It's going to be there for months. Great for fitness, for wellness, for multitasking, organizing the home and the home space, because Mars rules your 4th house of home. It also rules your 11th house of goals. So if you've been meaning to clean out a closet, if you've been meaning to check off your to-do list, if you've been meaning to set up a home gym, start working out around the house, walk the dog, get all the stuff done, you have months on end of Mars being in your 6th house. I think this is about doing more than one thing at once. I would say that you may feel very optimistic early in September about being like, I'm creating this list, these are all the things I want to do. Some of you guys I know are planning on moving or relocating, so you're downsizing and decluttering. That's something else that you can do as well. Now, Mars won't go retrograde to the end of October, so you've got 2 months here to focus on health, organization, wellness, getting everything kind of structured, and, you know, trying things out. We want to try things out once it goes retrograde. So you might try out a different couple gyms, a different couple diets. You might look into a couple different working spaces or remote offices and things like that. On the 16th of the month, we have Venus coming into a square with Mars. Okay, so Venus is the ruler of your career and also children and love life. And Mars is the ruler of family or home. It's also your goals. To me, can be a little stressful for you, Capricorn, because the Mercury retrograde is squaring your ascendant. So it's like putting the pressure on you to communicate with people differently. And it's also going to be in a square, in an opposition to Jupiter. So you're kind of the focal point of this. And it's like, well, what are you going to do? You know, how do you find the time for yourself or for your body in the midst of work and also some pretty profound emotional or home shifts? It can feel like a lot, very overwhelming for the early degrees. I would say like the first 10 degrees of all of the cardinal signs are really going to get hit with this retrograde. Okay, so where was I going with that? So, you know, as we're getting ready to come into what is going to be the Mercury retrograde, you might be reevaluating what you're doing for work, what your status in the world is. Sometimes like a boss leaves, sometimes there is like a total change in where we're working all together. Mercury rules your education and your belief system. So maybe you're realizing like you want to go back to school for something new. Maybe you want to take a course or a workshop, or you need to go through some kind of training, or you need to travel for work in some capacity. That could be happening. Mercury will be retrograde for several weeks, really all the way up until early October, and we're going to see a number of aspects during this Mercury retrograde. It'll go retrograde from Libra, 10th house, into your 9th house, which is why I have a feeling there's something about travel or continuing education that might factor in here. Worst case scenario also, if there are layoffs and other things that are going on at work legally, there can be that kind of stuff popping up as well. On the 16th of the month, we've got Mars square Venus. So Venus being the ruler of career, that's what I was talking about, in a square to Mars, which is family. Another indication that I'm like, okay, is there something going on where like either your education or your traveling or your philosophy about your routine is somehow changing. Now, Mars-Venus squares, it just tells me there's going to be friction with your home and your family responsibility versus career, and to me it looks like there's some issues with your schedule, which makes sense because this is going to be a retrograde here in a couple of weeks time, and you're going to be able to rework your schedule in some way. So if you're starting to see the breakdown, you're like, okay, what do I need to learn about getting better organized and planning? Can create good friction too, but I think that this is the kind of friction where we see arguments, accidents, you know, stuff like that. So just be more mindful with Mars in your 6th house. You are more accident prone. You want to make sure you're not breaking any laws or anything else here as well. Same day, we're also going to see the Sun oppose Neptune. And so there can be issues with clarity, visibility, not seeing everything fully, not being able to understand the details. And we'll also see Venus trine the North Node and Uranus. So maybe you're learning about creative ventures. Maybe you're learning about self-employment. Maybe you're learning about like new hobbies and stuff that you can teach yourself. On the 19th, Venus will fully come into the trine with Uranus. And I feel like this is about, yeah, maybe looking at self-employment and things that you really enjoy, hobbies that you enjoy, and new ways of making money. Then on the 22nd, we are going to have a Sun-Mercury Cazimi happening in Libra. So the Sun will have gone to your 10th house of career, highlighting your career. Mercury will retrograde. Likely you're getting like asked if you want to take a new position, or if you're waiting to hear back from a job interview, you might hear back from somebody right around that day. On the 22nd, that your boss might want to sit down and talk to you and be like, hey, you know, like, what do you want to do within the company? What can we offer you? Do you want to negotiate benefits? Because the Sun rules your 8th house of other people's resources. There can be a back and forth that you're having as to whether or not you feel like right taking this position. Then on the 24th, Venus in Virgo comes into an opposition with Neptune. So you want to be careful with what people are offering you. If you are getting offers for jobs, make sure they're in writing, make sure they're guaranteed, read the fine print, make sure everything is kosher. Be very careful with like traveling and money, and be very careful with whose advice you buy around this time. On the 25th, then Venus in Virgo still comes into a trine with Pluto in your sign. Now this is actually really lovely because it makes me feel like you've reached a deal, you've stood firm about what it is that you believe in, what you want to see happening, you know, what your new beliefs or philosophies are in life, and like how it's helped you change and transform as a person. Then on the 26th, we are going to see Venus conjunct Mercury. So Mercury will go retrograde, ruler of the 9th, conjunct Venus, okay, which is work. And it's going to be in your 9th house. And this is all in some slight trines to Pluto. So you might be reconnecting with somebody at a distance, going back and forth, talking about taking a position, thinking about reapplying for a job, going back to school. It's a very powerful period for you, Capricorn, because of the trines to Pluto. So the whole like last 10 days of the month are actually quite magical for you. But that retrograde makes me feel like you're reevaluating what your beliefs are, thinking about going back to school to make a bigger change in your career, or at the very least training, or maybe you might be teaching somebody. That same day, the Sun in Libra makes an opposition to Jupiter. I'm wondering, like, is it possible that you get offered a job in another area and somebody's like, would you reconsider, you know, moving? Would you relocate for this job? You know, we'll offer you this amazing job, but you got to move out of state, or you got to move to another place. Could very well happen. So maybe you're entertaining the idea of like, you know, wanting to move back home and be closer to family or your hometown, and you're looking for jobs, and then you get one and it ends up being a lot better than you thought. Then on the 27th of the month, Mercury still retrograde in Virgo in your 9th, trines Pluto again. So likely you're going back and forth. It can be legal. It can also be about publishing, about traveling, whatever it is. You're digging deep and you're trying to get to the bottom of it and really, you know, come up with a plan for what it is that you're either learning or traveling to. It's also about making sense of your schedule, because Mercury is the ruler of your schedule. So it looks like you're trying to figure out how to make time for going to work and going to school, making time for travel and going to work, making time for training, something like that. And also just like a lot of learning something. It can be organization, it can be perfecting something, but it can be learning stuff in regards to the law or legality. On the same day, Mars in Gemini in your 6th house, where it will be for some time, is now coming into a trine with Saturn. And this is really wonderful because this kind of makes me feel like the back and forth that you've been doing with this potential work thing is to make sure that you're getting enough money, or that you're getting the salary that you want, or that you're being, you know, paid for your worth. So it looks to me like, because Mars does deal with home, and it's in your 6th house, maybe you've negotiated a deal where you can work somewhere for a period of time remotely before you pick up and relocate. Maybe you've negotiated, you know, somebody paying for some of your costs if you have an at-home office. Regardless, with your home lord in a trine with Saturn, which is the ruler of your chart, to me it seems like work and money stuff seems to kind of right at the end of September going into early October kind of come into unison. It's working together, and everything is kind of starting to kind of flow a little bit better. This is the first time Mars will trine, so you'll see, Mars will go retrograde, it'll trine again in the months ahead. So take a look at the 27th and see what's really working together. And even if this is just organizing your home space, organizing your health and your diet better, exercise and food kind of working in unison to kind of find better health, that's something else that could happen as well. All right, so let's see what the cards have to say for you, Capricorn. I get the Knight of Swords. I'm looking at the air trines and I'm like, yeah, information's going to come fast. The Knight of Swords can be about a Libra, a Gemini, or an Aquarius, which is interesting because we do see the air trines that are happening in these signs. So you may have to be talking to one of these people in order to kind of better organize and facilitate contract negotiations, possibly having to travel. Knights do get on a horse and they go somewhere. But sharing of ideas, sharing of insight, sharing of communication contracts, initiating meetings, being active. These are all things that come up. And being more courageous in terms of speaking what's on your mind. I would say just be mindful with, Mercury retrograde. We can definitely, especially in your 10th house, like there's more eyes on you. People are hearing what you have to say. So if there are any mistakes or anything at work, it's more likely to be visible. So just be mindful when sending emails or when you're on the phone or anything like that. Just watch what you're saying, because there can be somebody who can pick up on a sense of like aggressiveness or assertiveness that can be taken the wrong way. Okay? Good luck. Aquarius. Oh, my Aquarian friends, let's see what's going on for you this month in the month of September. All right, so the month kicks off for you with a Mercury-Jupiter opposition. So we've got Mercury in a fellow sister sign in the 9th house of travel, philosophy, legality, beliefs, in an opposition to Jupiter. Now, Mercury rules other people's money, change and transformation, 5th house of the heart, creativity, dating, and children. With Mercury in opposition to Jupiter, I get the impression that you are hoping to travel maybe. If you are, you might have some hiccups in the month ahead. Maybe you're planning to go back to school, to write something, to publish something. Maybe you're wanting to go on a trip with a partner because it's in the sign of Libra. It's in opposition to Jupiter, okay, which is good news, and it does involve friends. Maybe it's like you're planning on going somewhere and your partner can't, so they're like, well, can somebody else go? And you're like, let me see if a friend can go with me. Or something that you do while a partner is away or they're traveling. Maybe there's a sense of wanting to reconnect. You place a phone call and you call a friend or you call a sibling and you're like, come visit while, my partner is away on business. That could happen. Good news can come, but there can also be a sense of like fabrication in these places. So there can be like big stories or tall tales. So I would say just be mindful of that. Mercury is in shadow, so there definitely can be some truth that can get shaken out down the road. On the 3rd of the month, Mars enters into shadow. So you've got Mars that's in your 5th house of passion, romance, having fun, and children. Mars rules your 10th house of career and parenting. It also rules your 3rd house of communication. If you have kids, you might notice that you're having to be more assertive with them. You're having to be more direct with them. If you do not, you might be more interested in the area of children. Mars in the 5th house, especially for an extended period of time, for several months, if you're trying to get pregnant, can be really great, especially because Mars is a sister sign. And Mars will also make aspects to Saturn in your sign. So there's like a sense of seriousness, sobriety, responsibility, and all of these things when it comes to dealing with your children. It can be also that you're just focusing more on pleasure, fun, hobbies, things of that nature. Mars will turn retrograde at the end of October, so things will slow down there. So we might see like less time for fun. Less opportunity to travel for fun, less opportunity to kind of see some of our hobbies grow. So we want to do as much as we can in this department before then. On the 9th of the month, Mercury goes retrograde in fellow sister sign Libra in your 9th house, and it'll go retrograde from the 9th house into the 8th. Changes in travel plans, how that affects joint resources. This could also be that you're thinking a lot about money with a spouse or with a partner, talking to them about making financial changes or cutbacks in some capacity. That could be something else that's happening, especially in relation to children, right? Because it's Mercury. It can also be just talking more about taxes, investments, joint resources, paying things off, debt, loans, that kind of stuff. On the 16th of the month, Venus in Virgo comes into a square with Mars. So once again, Venus square Mars could be great for sexuality, tension. I like Venus in the 8th house square Mars. That seems very sexy. That seems like an opportunity to really go deep in the love and the intimacy department. Venus in the 8th can be secret affairs though, and secrets in general, and Mars here is about like having fun, so it can be like a lot of opportunities in the love and the relationship department for those of you guys who are single. And maybe like, you know, sex and intimacy is a nice outlet for some of this frustration that's kind of, that's been building with the Saturn-Uranus square. Maybe you need a little bit of that to diffuse some of the issues maybe that you're having with family and standing your ground with people. Especially because Venus rules actually your 4th and Mars rules your 10th. So there can be friction over your kids and money and them wanting money or joint resources or, you know, child support, alimony, that kind of stuff. And there can be a lot of tension in that department for money owed or people thinking that you owe them something. On the 19th of the month, one more thing. We're also going to see the sun in Virgo. In your 8th house, it'll come into an opposition with Neptune. This is around the 16th. Watch out for financial transactions, scams, things like that. People having access to your account, you know, double and triple check your accounts, make sure you're straight. Especially Mercury going retrograde into your 8th, that can be crimes or people who are like trying to hack accounts or take things from you. So be extra cautious there. Look for scams and be careful when dealing with people and transactions, especially because it's going to retrograde back to the same degree, 14. So that 14-degree opposition is right where the Mercury retrograde is. Maybe you're moving money around. Maybe you're handling documents pertaining to taxes and getting everything ready for the end of the year. You might want to start doing that early. On the 19th, we're going to see Venus in Virgo trine the North Node. So even in spite of this, to me, it seems like you're solid, money's coming in, maybe you're gaining something, maybe you get something from money, from family, maybe there's some kind of an insurance or an inheritance payout, something that you gain in some way. And a couple of days later, then you see Venus trine Uranus, which is really positive for you because Uranus is your chart ruler, and Venus in the 8th house tells me that this is like money that people have to pay you through a refund, a return, an expensive gift, a bonus, something that you get. And it might also be money related to taxes and property. And you might have to do something with that. You might have to put it back into something. Maybe you get a gift and you pay off a home or something like that with it. Great for lending, great for looking at like debt, consolidation with Mercury going retrograde into your 8th, and like finally if you get a little money coming in, like paying things off and like kind of handling some of your debts, or that family might help you do that. But this can also be about kind of finalizing some tax documents and paperwork as well, legal stuff as well, because Venus rules your 9th. Then we have on the 24th, Venus will then move deeper into Virgo. It'll also oppose Neptune. Be careful here. Venus rules the past. It also rules family. In opposition to Neptune, you could have a woman or a family member asking you for money, support, or resources. Aquarius risings, you know, some of you guys might be thinking about cosmetic procedures or, you know, actual like anything that involves like lasers or things that might involve surgeries. I would say, like, please don't be doing this right now. If you want to go and interview and like talk to doctors and come up with treatment plans and look at funding it, great, but not while it's retrograde and not while it's in a square to Mars. If that's something you want to do, look for a time that's going to be better, probably in the spring of next year. Great opportunity to get electional astrology readings so you can pick the best date, but I think some of you guys might be thinking about doing that, and now is not the time. Then we've got on the 25th of the month, Venus will then come into a trine with Pluto. And that can be about women getting support, getting help in the family, because Venus rules family. So a woman you live with or a woman in the family needing to go to some kind of treatment, needing to go to a center, hospital, rest retreat, going somewhere with a partner, getting time away, having more time for intimacy and some privacy as well. But that's about healing. Then on the 26th of the month, we've got Mercury retrograde back into Virgo, conjunct Venus. So you're re-examining some kind of legal situation involving money and the family. So you're coming back and you're looking at this, and this can involve documents or rehashing conversations about money owed. The same day, you have got the Sun, which will be in Libra, in opposition to Jupiter, which is in your third. And this tells me that you're getting good insight from a counselor or a therapist, maybe somebody like an attorney is saying, you're good, sign this document, you're fine, we'll handle this, like it's gonna go over okay. And there's like a positive kind of optimistic kind of outline to this. Because Mercury retrogrades in your 9th into your 8th, it's all going to be about like money owed or dealing with either lawsuits or whether you can get money back possibly from a trip that you might have to cancel. That's something else. But it looks like there's a silver lining. You'll get a rebate, or there will be somebody who's, willing to kind of help you through the process. Now, if you're thinking about going back to school, it's going to require documents of some kind, or you're going to have to show, proof that you have completed previous education. And if you can't find that, you might be able to find somebody who can help you get a copy of it. And then on the 27th of September, we've got a couple things going on. So we've got Mercury that's in Virgo here, and it's coming into a trine with Pluto. So uncovering important tax information, stuff in regards to insurance, inheritance, you're getting to the bottom of it, you're finally clearing something up, something very cathartic about finally releasing and like letting go. And you might wrap up tax or insurance inheritance issues. And great day for research, going deep, especially with a therapist, something in regards to intimacy healing, sexual healing, or recovering from grief or trauma. And then we also have Mars in Gemini still in your 5th house, and it's going to be in a trine to Saturn. I'm wondering if this is like the day, either with a lover or with a romantic partner or with a child, that you're like, that's it. I've had enough. This is the line. You don't cross it. Something about some of these situations all seem to kind of all blend in together, that you're having to kind of take a stand with somebody, be very clear, have a conversation. You're like, this is the way that it is. And I feel like there's a lot of strength when you have Saturn in your 1st house in a trine to Mars, because you're coming out on top, you're in control of something, you're handling something, you're taking responsibility, even if that's just for yourself and for your own happiness. Okay? All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what's happening for you in the month ahead, what the cards have to say. Oh, pulled 2 cards there. Okay, interesting. 6 of Swords. We got this for somebody else. I can't remember who it was. Was it Gemini? Talking about being in limbo. I'm wondering if this is like you being in limbo, not necessarily the living situation, although you could be. We are seeing the return of the Saturn-Uranus square. It's going to be here for the next two months or so. But I think this is about being in limbo. You might be in limbo with a financial situation. You might be in limbo with a romantic partner. There can be a sense of you being like, you know what, things are changing right now. I am becoming a different person. I'm moving to the next phase of my life. Whatever it is, it works well because this is the element of air, and it's important to communicate and like let people know that you're in a transition. If you're having a difficult time adapting to like some new like lifestyle things. And as planets go through your 8th house, you are changing something in regards to your health, Virgo. So there's either health changes, financial changes, sexual changes, whatever it is. And also it affects you on a psychological level. So this is talking about, while you're in the process of that change, communicating and explaining to people that it's challenging for you. It can be a little scary, that, maybe you don't know what's next. You don't know where the next step is going to be, work-wise, relationship, or home-wise, but just know that you're moving on to a much more peaceful time in your life, and it will be fine. I promise it'll be good. A Mercury retrograde in the 8th is always an interesting one, because there's definitely a lot of cleaning out the closet in terms of fears, and a lot of like detoxing, especially habits. So some of you guys are letting go of bad mental habits or bad habits in general. Okay. All right, so let's now move on to my Pisces. Hello, Pisces and Pisces rising. Welcome to your September 2022 horoscopes. I hope you're doing well. Okay, so the month is going to kick off for you, and that is going to be with a Mercury-Jupiter opposition. Now, Jupiter co-rules your chart. You're ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. So having Mercury, which is the god of communication, in your 8th house, it is all about how you're getting deeper in intimacy, communicating deeper with other people, sharing your fears, talking about money, resources, and merging together. It is the ruler of your 7th house of relationships. So we're going to watch from Mercury's opposition to Jupiter, there's like a lot of like talking to other people about resources, what you have versus what they have, what you have versus what you can build together. You may be hearing from people from the past or connecting with ex-partners or ex-relationships because Mercury is in a sign relating to relationships in the 8th house of the shadows, retrograding back into the 7th. But there can be good financial news that can come. Somebody can give you good news. Somebody can be talking to you about what they owe you, possibly paying you back. That's the other way that this can happen. Mercury also rules your 4th house, which deals with home and family. So you could be going back and forth with a family member about money that they owe you or a living situation. On the 3rd of the month, Mars moves into shadow. So Mars will go retrograde until the end of October. But this is the area that Mars will retrograde back through. So I want you to pay attention, okay? Same with the other mutable signs. We've got some squares here. 4th house affecting the 7th house, which will affect the 10th, which will affect your ascendant, and also, back creating a grand mutable square. You'll see this now, especially if you have planets in Sag, that it's really kind of kicking into overdrive. It just means things are changing. So, watching this Mars retrograde shadow, you might see that you're going back and forth on a living situation. Do I buy a property? Do I not? Do I live here? Do I live there? Do I move back home? Mars in the 4th has some duality to it of having choices or options as to where you want to live and whether or not you're going to, start a new plan in terms of where you're calling home or if you're going to return and kind of change your mind. You have until the end of October until that retrogrades, and then it might lose a little bit momentum. So it's going to be harder to move, harder to make those changes. Maybe you're talking to partnerships now about what's going on with relationships so you can better plan where you're going to be landing. Then on the 9th of the month, Mercury goes retrograde, and that's going to be in Libra. It'll go from your 8th house of joint resources and secrets into your 7th house of relationships. So I'm anticipating this is going to be like, how are things going with a partner's resources? 8th house is other people's money. So if you're in a romantic relationship or if you're married, there can be like a reworking of their finances, and that may affect you in some way with the oppositions to your Jupiter. And you guys are talking about how you can build together professionally or together in terms of your joint resources. Then on the 16th, we are going to see that Venus in Virgo in your 7th house squares Mars. So Venus is the ruler of the 3rd house of communication. It could be siblings, or this can be about movement. And Mars is going to deal with money and also moving. So I'm wondering if part of the retrograde is like a partner saying to you, like, I don't want to live here, I want to move. I don't like living here, can we go somewhere else? And they start talking to you about making changes in the home base. You can also have much more back and forth with a sibling as well. Being that, Venus is also about partnerships and pleasure, like it's really important that you're hearing what other people are telling you when it comes to relationships and if they really feel like you need to have a change in the home or the domestic zone as well, because it'll keep coming back up. On the 19th, well, you know what, actually on the 16th, something else they'll say is that we have the Sun in Virgo in opposition to Neptune. So you can be having a situation where a partner is telling you, like, I need your help. Are you there? Check in. Can you assist me? Like, can't you see I'm dealing with this crisis? And these are the same degrees, this 24 degrees, that Mercury will retrograde back to. So they can be telling you that they need some kind of help or support, and that they need you to be more available for them. So they're going to be telling you what they need from you throughout the month. Then we will also see that Venus in your 7th house will make a trine with the North Node. And that's going to be about communicating from the heart and maybe getting support from either siblings or partners and communicating more effectively about making physical change. On the 22nd of the month, we're going to see a Sun-Mercury cazimi happening where the sun's going to go into your 8th house of relationships that are changing and transforming. It's about our karmic connections with other people. In the 8th, what's changing? Libra, relationships. Sun and Mercury will conjunct. So there's something changing with your partner, and you guys are talking about changes in resources. Their body can be changing in somehow. They might need some more support physically or financially. This can also be a day where you're hearing back from people from the past. Mercury will retrograde from your 8th to your 7th. So you can be reviewing old relationships. Do they still think of me? Do they want to talk to me? Do I call them? Are they calling me? That all can be coming up during the retrograde, but it might really peak right around the 22nd of September. This is also the halfway point to the Mercury retrograde. So likely if you've been wondering, am I going to get back together? Are we going to work? Are they going to call me back? Am I ever going to see them again? Am I ever going to meet someone? Pay attention to what's happening on the 22nd because there can be fated encounters, especially with your 7th house lord connecting to the sun. However, this can be a relationship breakdown day too, that if something's not working, you're going to be like, you know what, maybe we're not panning out, and you'll start to see the oppositions to Neptune and the squares to Mars materializing as like, okay, maybe it's time to call this quits. Maybe I need to go back home. Maybe you need to move out, or we need some space. Okay, then we have on the 24th, Venus, which rules communication, coming into an opposition with Neptune in your sign. So once again, I'm seeing a lot of people being like, I need more. Can you give me more? Where are you? And this can either be that you're just kind of like in daydreamy la la land, or you're wanting to retreat. You need space. You don't want to be so consumed with a relationship. And somebody can come across a little needy, especially women, because it's Venus. On the 25th of the month, then Venus in Virgo comes into a trine with Pluto. And this is like somebody talking to you about their goals, right? They can be talking to you about, I want to have more fun. I want to see my friends. I want to have children, 5th house to your 7th. They might start talking to you about children or having kids or pregnancy as well. This can also be just saying that they want to go out and party and have a good time. They want you to kind of join them in that and to be there and to be happy with them also. Then on the 26th of the month, this is a day to watch. You're going to have Mercury retrogrades back in Virgo in your 7th house, conjunct Venus. Somebody from the past might call you or send you an email, or they might reach out, or you might finally crack and send something to somebody, and you might be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. For both for, I would say, for Aries and, I would say Aries and Pisces, just be careful. You guys are the ones who might hear from exes more than anybody else. Like I could see that a little bit for a couple other signs, but especially for you two, because it's happening from, your 8th to your 7th. Not everybody is meant to come back. And I wonder what's going to happen around this day, because Venus will conjunct Mercury, so it means like you're hearing something secret from another person, or something's being unveiled about another person to you, and you guys might be talking on the phone, or you might receive an email or a letter about how somebody's feeling, and you weren't even aware of how they felt about you, or that they still had feelings. The same day, the sun, which is going to be in Libra in the 8th house, is going to be in opposition to Jupiter. Okay, so it's also good news for partnerships, good news for professional relationships, mergers, people who want to invest in your ideas or invest in your business. You might find out that it's going to work, and somebody calls you back and says, let's do it, let's work together. Or they accept your application for a loan. You might get that okayed as well. Great financial news opportunities here, especially in regards to your career, paying things off and getting ahead. Then on the 27th of the month, you have Mercury still in Virgo. Okay, it's going to be in your 7th house. It's coming back into a trine with Pluto, and it's had several trines now, and this is all going to be about solidifying something in regards to your partner and their goals, your partner and your love for them, or the possibility of a child. Then also on the 27th, we're going to see Mars and Gemini deep in your fourth house of home, where there can be more conflict at home, there can be more stress. Mars going through your fourth house can definitely bring tension, fights, quarrels, stuff like that. Have a to-do list, be working around the house, or be working on moving or developing property or working from home so you can alleviate some of this conflict. Mars is in a trine to Saturn. Okay, so Mars is about home, land, and property. It's also about investments, so it's in the second house. So maybe you're trying to build a house, you're trying to sell a house, trying to get invested in property. Maybe it's a family business. In a trine to Saturn tells me that there is something that is getting stronger and it's solidifying. So maybe you're making plans to live in another country. Maybe you're making plans to go and build a house out in nature. And you're working hard behind the scenes to see these goals come into fruition. You're going to start to see the glimmers of that. Just know that in the months ahead, not just Virgo season when you see these squares, but it's also going to be in Sag season. We're going to have planets in Sag that are squaring Neptune, squaring Mars, which will retrograde, squaring anything if you have anything in Virgo, and then also Sag. Relationships are changing, home's changing, you're changing, your career, your responsibilities changing. And that's because this is hitting these 4 cardinal points. So my advice is make the next month being more aware of your relationships. They're going to be telling you what they need. If people come back and they tell you how they feel and it changes existing relationships, that is possible. But there is a need to go deeper in communicating with other people so that way you can make better plans, more efficient planning for where it is that you're going to be living later this year. Because I could see that Mars retrograde happening in the fall, going into the new year, as being like, I was going to move here, now I'm moving there. And a lot of like your home base or your family base is somehow affected by a partner. All right, so let's see what the cards have to say for you. 7 of Cups. So many options. You can get overwhelmed. So many options. I get the impression that there's something here that's like illusions, and you being like, it could be this, or it could be this, or it could be this. And it's like, it's hard because you have Neptune in your sign to ground out one idea and stick to one thing. And you don't want to be living in fantasy land. There can be fantasy land and then reality hits and you're like, oh my God, I'm living here. I'm with this person. Like, what's going on? Why am I doing this? Or it can be this realization that you're not really feeling totally fulfilled in your life. You're not doing enough development in your private life. You're not doing enough development in your relationships. And you're like, how did I get here? Try to cut through the illusion. It can be really difficult when you have oppositions to Neptune in your sign. But other people are going to be coming in being like, let me help you. How can I help you? And they might seem a little pushy. A family might seem a little pushy, but I think the pushiness that you're experiencing is like people who are trying to get you to be more decisive and make a decision and commit to something. So pay attention, but be realistic when you are making decisions when it comes to your relationships. Don't fantasize and overly idealize people or situations because some things are meant to be left in the past. Okay? All right, you guys, hopefully that was helpful. It is going to be, I think, actually like a nice little break. It's like a nice little slice, you know, right before we get into October and we have some more chaos with some of those eclipses that are coming. So definitely going to be a little bit more challenging for the mutable signs, I think more than anybody else, to be honest with you. And obviously Aries and Libra, you're going to be feeling that as well. You guys can come back to this, you know, leave me comments, let me know whether you're an existing member or a subscriber to my channel if you're new. How are you feeling with these energies? What are you excited for? What are you anticipating for the month ahead? If your birthday is in September, happy birthday to my Virgos and also my Libras. I hope it's a good one for you guys. And I'm sure I will see all of you guys very soon. Enjoy September. Take care.